prominent schools.
It's very real. It's very personal. So many of the community members here in the Tampa Bay area have contacts and connections and loved ones that live in Tallahassee, work in Tallahassee, go to school in Tallahassee. So, of course, this is very personal and is very real. And everyone is anxiously awaiting to hear some information about what exactly is unfolding on campus right now.
Yep. Again, going to try our very hardest to get comments loaded up here on screen as soon as we can so that we can have a back and forth Q&A with our audience once we get that functionality working. If not, we'll continue to just shout out comments. Let's go to the WFLA YouTube page and see what folks are saying over there. Yeah, I mean, Crambo in our YouTube live comment section saying, quote, "Everything is just news until it happens to you or close to you." I think there are a lot of people that certainly feel that way. And so, yeah. And look, again, there's so many various news agencies being thrown into our comment section saying, this is what that person is saying, or I'm sorry, this is what this news agency is saying. And then you go to their news website, it's completely not true. So, you know, we'll continue to pass along credible information here on this live stream.
And that's our duty as journalists, to make sure that we are reporting credible information to you from local agencies. And we won't do that until we get that official word, of course.
Yeah, and I do see one report that is claiming that a suspect is in custody. Somebody in our comment section did pass along something to me that said, wait, JB, check this out. And I am passing this along to our newsroom. Yeah, understood. Hey, Brian, I'm going to send you something in the meantime as we get ready to go here. All right. And in 10 seconds, we're going to be simulcasting on WFLA News Channel 8. Mackenzie, stand by. We're going to come to you for another live report. And again, we'll be simulcasting on all platforms. All right, hello, everybody. Welcome into the Stream Center for a developing story. Yes, okay, there we go. Developing story here out of Tallahassee. JB Buno, Brittany Muller here with you in the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida. Multiple hospitalizations have been reported at Florida State University after an active shooter alert was put out shortly after noon Eastern. Brittany, a lot of information being fired left and right on social media. We're going to, of course, keep it to what we are hearing here in the WFLA newsroom. What are you seeing as far as the latest information at this hour?
Right. We know local, state, and federal leaders are involved, including the FBI, Jacksonville field office, of course. The staff at Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare is receiving and caring for patients from the reported shooting at the FSU campus. We know that the school is still on lockdown at this hour, and the police there are going to be slowly clearing and evacuating rooms on the main campus by using a safe word to confirm that it's safe to open the door. They're asking for the school community to continue to shelter in place until law enforcement contacts them.
All right. So the latest that we have, of course, Florida's Attorney General echoing what Governor Ron DeSantis put out a short time ago. It says, our prayers are with our FSU family, and our state law enforcement is actively responding. And then additionally from FBI Jacksonville, interestingly enough, it's FBI Jacksonville putting this out, but it says, FBI Jacksonville and the Tallahassee resident agency are on the scene at Florida State University and assisting our local law enforcement partners. The very latest coming from FSU Alert is to continue to shelter in place. I think it's our responsibility to remind our audience that it's so easy now to fabricate misinformation on social media. And if you're logging into social media trying to get the very latest about what's happening at FSU, you might find just landmines left and right, everywhere you look, pertaining to this developing story. Please be careful as to not only what you read, but more importantly, what you share, because that's exactly how misinformation can become so widespread. FSU Alert is a system that has been put into place by Florida State University specifically for days like today when we have a particular threat on campus. And so the very latest that they have, we're getting to the point now where we probably are expecting an update here soon, because they've been putting out updates every 15 to 20 minutes or so in the last hour plus. But continue to shelter in place is the latest thing that we have at 1:04 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, that's now about 20 to 21 minutes old. We also have our WFLA Tallahassee Bureau correspondent, Mackenzie Laporte. She's there with us on the ground. She's been joining us on Zoom, showing us the sights and sounds around campus. When I see her picture come back up, I'll share that here with you. Actually, I see that Mackenzie is there with us. Mackenzie, what's the latest that you are seeing and hearing there on the ground outside of FSU?
Yeah, I moved to another location on campus, and it is still very vacant. There are no students out walking around. Every so often you'll see some, leaving campus and exiting, but it seems like campus is pretty much a dead zone with either students already have evacuated or some who are still inside sheltering in buildings.
Mackenzie, you've been, how easy is it to, as far as your position right now, first and foremost, please be safe out there, but what have you seen from a student perspective, from your vantage point, as far as activity? Both, look, as far as cars, people walking around, are people walking away from campus? What's the latest that you're seeing from your vantage point?
Yeah, so the student union is kind of the heart of this story right at the moment. So most students and cars are exiting and leaving campus, moving away from the student union. When you drive past the dorms or these student apartment buildings, everyone is on the phone and calling their families to let them know that they're safe back home at their apartments. Every student that you see who is leaving campus and exiting is on the cell phone, whether that's getting updates or letting their families know that they're safe. Every so often you see students walking around here, but majority of the routes on campus are dead ends. They are blocked by sheriffs and police, making sure that everyone is not going closer to the student union at the moment.
We're on the air right now on WFLA News Channel 8, of course, your NBC station right here in Tampa, Florida. I think we're going to be wrapping up our television coverage here shortly. This is just a brief update on TV to let everybody know what the latest is from Florida State University. Our coverage continues right now on WFLA.com, as well as the WFLA Facebook and YouTube page. Again, though, if you join us on Facebook or YouTube, we caution, please be responsible when it comes to sharing information. If you see information that comes from a credible source, please be sure to attribute appropriately. But of course, do not believe everything that you see in our comment section with a situation that is developing as rapidly as the one that we have. So we're going to continue to actually stay on WFLA News Channel 8. And Brittany, you have some information to pass along here to our audience, I believe.
Yes, Florida State University was the site of a shooting in 2014. That's according to NBC News. Tragically, today's incident isn't the first time. In November 2014, a gunman who was an alumni of the university shot an employee and 2 students at the library. That shooter was fatally shot by responding officers. Again, that incident happened in 2014. We're still waiting for information as to what's unfolding right now on university campus.
All right. So we do know that there is a lot of various news organizations reporting various things. And I have seen at least one news organization make reports when it comes to the status of the suspect. We have not been able to confirm any of that information. I think it's pretty telling that no other news organization right now is going with that information. A reminder to our audience how quickly misinformation can spread in a situation like this. I know I sound like a broken record here, but when I look at our comment section, Brittany, and I see just how much misinformation is getting shared, it's alarming. But a lot of that, I believe, look, there are a lot of folks out there right now that are really scared, especially if you have kids who go to FSU. If your son or daughter, go to FSU, or if you're maybe your husband or wife or someone that you love works there as faculty at FSU. There's a lot of fear out there right now. We understand that, and we're going to do our very best to provide you, of course, with confirmed information. And the information that is circulating right now that we have seen is not verified. In fact, we have made calls, and look, bottom line is right now the FSU alert stands pat that right now it is a continue to shelter in place at Florida State University as they continue to clear rooms and make sure that it's safe to release the active threat and say all clear, which we hope happens soon.
Exactly. And of course, we're monitoring that online. We know that local, states, and federal officials are on scene, FDLE, FHP, the FBI. We also know that Attorney General James Uthmeyer's office is also on scene. Uthmeyer was supposed to have a news conference in Jacksonville this afternoon, but that was canceled in light of what's happening at FSU right now. The Governor Ron DeSantis is also posting on X, extending his prayers right now in light of everything that's going on. And I know that the community is worried right now. We have our colleagues who have students on campus right now. We're also trying to connect with a student at campus who heard gunshots, and so we're trying to get him to join us on WFLA Stream Center right now, JB.
Yeah, we're going to try to get him on as well, and I believe that we have some contributions that are coming in from people, and we've encouraged, if you're going to use Report It, to do so from only the absolute safest of scenarios. But yes, we have Report It on WFLA.com open for people who want to share anything our way, whether it's a piece of information or if it's videos or photos. Just go to WFLA.com/Report It. We will be bringing in some more contributors here to the live stream as soon as we do, as soon as we have them. But in the meantime, let's check in with Mackenzie. Mackenzie, where are you, and what are we looking at here from your Zoom vantage point?
Yeah, so we are still on campus. I just pulled off to the side to park, and you see some students gathered over here on the grass, very close to these police cars and everything. And I did check in with a few that were walking by, and they said that they were okay. But we are still hearing those helicopters circulating campus as well. And this is the scene at the moment. We're seeing some students gathering outside of class halls and everything.
Mackenzie, while we have you, I know that you're also paying attention to any incoming texts, any incoming information. Have you seen anything since you've been on this particular live stream with us?
All I've known so far, still to be true, is that the FSU alert is still ongoing. And from what I can see out here in front of me, feet on the ground, is a lot of students leaving campus, and most of them are on their phone calling parents and families, I'm assuming, to make sure that they know, that their loved ones know that they are okay and they're safe.
Mackenzie, thank you. And talk to us a little bit about what those people that you're seeing walk away from the scene, what are they saying? How are they feeling? What are the emotions right now?
I mean, it's very chilling. Campus is normally a very lively area at this time, with students going from class to class, but everyone seems to be, upset, worried, and almost every single one is on the phone, whether that be texting or calling, I'm assuming, to update their families and loved ones about what they're seeing and their safety so far. But it's very chilling walking around campus, seeing almost no one around in some parts, and seeing all the different dead ends that are blocked by police officers and local sheriffs, making sure that everyone stays safe and doesn't inch closer to the student union at the moment.
Of course, the school is still on lockdown, and we know that it's a multi-agency effort that's underway right now, and I'm sure you could still hear those choppers overhead. What kind of agencies are you seeing pass by?
Yeah, we're seeing local sheriffs in town here in Tallahassee. FWC is on the ground helping. We have FDLE members and officers patrolling FSU's campus on foot or on cars. I mean, it is nonstop. You're seeing the blue lights flicker at almost every corner of campus today.
Yes, and I know state leaders are now chiming in addition to the Attorney General and Governor Ron DeSantis. We know the Florida House Speaker is telling NBC News about the incident. They're saying we're thinking of everyone on campus. Our prayers are with Florida State at this moment. And state legislators, or Danny Perez, is also describing the situation on campus as terrifying and every parent's worst nightmare. And you're seeing it, Mackenzie. You're seeing the emotions. You're seeing the silence. You're seeing probably the disbelief of what's unfolding on the campus right now. And many of those students, we can see them on the phone calling their loved ones and saying, I'm okay at this hour. But of course,
Yeah.
we're trying to get a full picture of what exactly is happening right now.
Yeah, it looks like this one woman on campus is handing out waters to these students who are sitting in the very hot weather right now, being secured by police officers to make sure that they are in a safe area. And they're all gathering, making sure that they're checking in with family members and loved ones about their safety and what's going on at the moment. But what I'm hearing right now is those helicopter chopper sounds as they patrol campus, but I haven't heard any ambulance sirens at this specific spot on FSU's campus at the moment.
Isn't that one of the most unbelievable things that happens after an incident, where community members step up and even offering water bottles, offering what they can in that moment to community members is chilling. It's unbelievable.
I'm going to hop in here really quickly, you guys, because we're getting in now some new video that we want to pass along here to you. I'm going to bring these up in the queue, and that's what I was stepping away for, to pass along to our audience here in the Stream Center. It's just that we were getting some new video in, and it says this is a shooting evacuation. This is a credit to Ryan Cedargren via Storyful. I do know that we have a new guest in the Zoom room. I hear that, so we're going to be bringing that person in here momentarily. But let's bring in this video again. This is credit to Ryan Cedargren. We're looking at this really for the first time, and this was around the time of the active shooter alert going out. Let's see if we can bring it. Let's bring in some audio here. Let's play this full.
But we saw people downstairs running from that. But we saw people downstairs running from that.
All right, and that's from Ryan, and we appreciate that video being sent in. A lot of these videos can also be sent in via WFLA.com/report it. But again, if you use that tool, we encourage you to do so only from the safest of scenarios, the safest of circumstances. This is another video. This is coming in from Garrett Harvey. And I think this one is this video got stretched a bit, but you can see, and I'm going to ask our newsroom to see if we can get this to me in the correct aspect ratio. But there you can see people running away from campus. You can also hear those sirens in the background as well. Brittany, yeah, I mean, chilling video to say the least.
It's a chilling video, and I'm sure parents are very concerned. It is a worst case scenario for so many people that are waiting to hear from their students. I know that we have a guest. I'm not sure if we can pull him up, but
yeah,
let's
bring in Chris. Chris is a former intern here at WFLA News Channel 8, and it's fun because Chris, I was about to say it's good to see you. I just wish it was under the better circumstances. How are you? Are you doing okay, and what's the latest that you're seeing from campus? Are you joining us from campus at the moment?
So I'm not joining us from campus right now. I'm actually in my apartment, which is off campus, but still only about a block away from the school. But I am safe now. But I was at the scene when this unfortunate shooting did occur. So I was in the student union. I just grabbed my lunch. I was getting ready to work on some of my meteorology homework. I am a meteorology major here at FSU. I'm a junior, just for some further context. But I was in the Union, and from the east entrance of the building, I saw a horde of students running in to the building. And I'm pretty sure I heard someone say active shooter, but I can tell something was up because there were students running and screaming in the middle of this building. And that's why I barely had any time to react. I had to grab what I could. I was able to grab my iPad and like a piece of paper. I had to leave everything else behind, and I got out of there as fast as I could. On my way out though, I did actually end up tripping on some stairs, so I did sprain my ankle. So I'm just trying to take care of that right now, and I did get a couple of cuts on my left thumb and then also my right leg. But right now I'm resting up at home. But kind of going back to the scene. After I got out of the Union, I took cover behind some bushes, kind of outside the Union, for about a couple minutes, and it was then where I heard several rounds of gunfire. I believe it was automatic gunshots because it seemed in pretty rapid succession. I do not know personally, like with for sure confirmation about injuries or fatalities, but I did hear the several of the gunshots. I was able to get a hold of my parents, and I've been checking out my loved ones for the past about hour and a half now. But after the gunshots kind of subsided a bit, I did hear a lot of law enforcement get onto the scene, and from there I was able to kind of run, but it was a little difficult because of my ankle again. But I was able to get to my car, which was over in the northwest side of campus. So kind of like mapping out the campus. The student union's kind of in like the heart of FSU's campus, a little bit on the more northern side, but still like right in the middle of campus where this shooting took place. It was somewhere I didn't see any shooters, but I heard the gunshots. But it seemed to take place, or from what I saw, there were students running in from outside the student union. So I'm I that's where I believe the incident occurred somewhere within that area. Again, I don't know exactly where the shooter was.
Thank you so much, Chris, for painting this picture for us. I'm sure that you're in shock and disbelief. I'm glad to hear that you're okay and that you're able to join us. I'm glad that you checked in with your parents and your family at this time. I'm sure they're relieved that you're okay. Talk to me a little bit about just the emotions from this. You know, we hear about shootings, school shootings that happen on campus, and we would hope that it would never happen to you. Talk to me about that, and after experiencing what you did today, how are you feeling?
I'm still trying to process everything. I know you've probably heard many people say this, but genuinely, I was one of the people that, never thought in a million years this could happen to me. And well, today it did. I'm just, I thank the Lord that I'm safe. I was able to make it back to my car. One piece, just very minor, cuts and stuff like that. I'm just, again, resting up right now. I was able to get back home. I did kind of take a different route back home because I just wanted to avoid campus at all costs. But I was able to make it back home to my off-campus apartment safely. Now, I know for several other students, many who did not have the time to really run away or just flee the scene, many of them were hunkered down in the buildings on campus. I have several friends who were just kind of sticking it out in the EOAS building or the Earth Ocean Atmospheric Science building, as well as some other places like the Love building. Now, what I have heard from some of my friends is that law enforcement have started going into those buildings and safely evacuating
Yes.
students from those areas.
Yes, you're exactly right. They're going in one by one, clearing out and evacuating students by giving a safe word. But I also want to let you know there's a
Brittany,
FSU alert that was just sent out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to hop in. Stand by here, Chris, for just a second. What do you have, Brittany?
All classes, university events, and business operations are canceled through Friday, April 18th. That's tomorrow. Essential employees should check in with their supervisors for further reporting instructions. Athletic events in Tallahassee are canceled throughout the weekend, and the Tallahassee main campus continues to remain in a shelter at this hour.
All right, and we are also monitoring a situation with, believe right now from the White House. Yeah, President Trump is with Vice President J.D. Vance, and in fact, I'll show you this live picture here really briefly, folks. We are paying close attention to if President Trump addresses the ongoing situation at Florida State University. Paying close attention to this. If President Trump says anything regarding the developing situation at FSU, we will pass it along here to you. I do not know if he has said anything yet. I'm going to check with our news team in the newsroom as to whether or not any update or any comment from the president was shared as he continues to meet with dignitaries in the White House.
We're monitoring that, of course, on social media and all platforms. But can we bring back Chris in, if possible?
Yeah, let's bring Chris back in. Chris, how's your ankle?
I mean, it's okay right now, but I will say it's kind of hard to walk. I've been kind of having to kind of hop on my right leg, like really around my apartment. It's kind of rough, but I'm just gonna kind of what I've been doing before this call. I've been just propping it up on my bed, just kind of icing it down, just kind of letting it heal naturally. But kind of the same thing in my other leg, which is
so. I want to start from the beginning for those who have just joined us, because we just had a new crop of folks joining us on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Take us through where you were, what you were doing, and when you said that you heard gunshots. So take us through all of it from your vantage point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in the student union. I just grabbed my lunch, just I finished eating. I was getting ready to do some of my meteorology homework when I saw a large amount of students running into the student union from the east side, screaming, and I believe I heard active shooter. That's why I realized I need to get out of there. So I did. I was running with a bunch of other students. When I was heading down the stairs, I did unfortunately trip, and I did sprain my left ankle. Just got a few cuts. But other than that, physically, I'm okay. But after I got out of the building, I went behind a couple bushes near the union, and that's why I started hearing several rounds of gunshots. So I knew this is a real situation. This is not a false alarm. This was something that was happening right now. It was an imminent danger to the students on campus, and it was just honestly surreal. Like, I was hearing several rapid fire rounds of loud bullets. It was a very loud sound. It was horrific. I mean, I never thought in a million years something like this would happen to me. And at my school, like, I've been attending FSU for 3 years now, and I never could have imagined that something like this could have ever happened to me. But after the gunshots kind of subsided, I immediately heard several law enforcement units heading to the scene. Their response was quite rapid, so I do commend them for that. However, I still don't know, official details regarding any injuries, fatalities, or even if the suspect or suspects have been apprehended yet. But after I took shelter, I was able to make it to my car, which was parked on the northwest side of campus. And from there, I had to take kind of an alternate route back home. I just wanted to avoid Tennessee Street because I know you actually shared some video from my friend Ryan Cedergren. His video caught.
That's your friend?
Yeah, I'm friends
wow.
with. I believe you also used a video from Garrett Harvey. I'm friends with both of them. So,
which is funny, well, only because that was just pure coincidence that those students happened to send in video that was in no connection to you, Chris. So,
yeah.
Even with a student population of how many students it was earlier? I mean,
46,000.
So just so happens that who sent us in video earlier, and we thank them for sending in that. In fact, let's show some of that video here. This is first from Ryan. But I'm sorry, Chris, continue.
Yeah, you're good. So in those videos that are on screen now, I mean, you can see the law enforcement units are beginning to arrive there, and several students are, trying to evacuate. And it was a very I know I felt distraught because I was like, what on earth is happening? And I mean, from that point, and I know one of the other videos, you can see that several students were crossing Tennessee Street, which is kind of one of the main roadways in Tallahassee. It's pretty busy, but really students were just trying to do anything they could to just get away from campus. And I was in the exact same boat, except usually I am, even though I live only about a block away from campus, I usually tend to commute. So that's why I tried doing everything I could do to just get out of the scene. I avoided Tennessee Street. You can kind of see, there were some cars on the road and students were just trying to flee from the scene. So I did go a little bit of a different route just because I want to just avoid the campus at all costs. So I kind of just went I almost did like a larger loop back to my apartment, but I am safe now and just kind of processing everything, just kind of gathering my thoughts here, just trying to process like what exactly what happened today at FSU.
I want to circle back to what I said when we first saw your face. I'm just relieved to see that you're okay, Chris. It feels like yesterday you were right here with us in the Stream Center interning. I froze this here on the center of your screen because you can see there, those are the people that are frantically running across the street in the opposite direction of campus itself, of the student union as we understand it. And then this is again from Garrett Harvey. So if you haven't seen this video, this is one of the many videos that are beginning to, circulate.
And JB, we have an update that I want to bring to you from the City of Tallahassee Police Department right now. We know, according to police, there's a student reunification point that's being established at the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center. They're saying multiple law enforcement agencies are actively working to secure the Florida State University campus. And again, they are working to create a student reunification point at the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center.
Also worth pointing out, it's been 45 minutes now since we've had the last FSU alert go out that has anything other than the fact that this is still an active shooter situation. And look, it's an active shooter situation until law enforcement clears that active shooter alert. It has not yet been cleared. If anything is being shared on social media to the contrary, that it is no longer an active shooter situation, that is not true. It is still an active shooter situation, and the active advice or the active recommendation from FSU is to continue to shelter in place. Chris, I know that that's exactly what you're doing right now. You've been, I'm sure, hearing from a lot of your classmates, friends. What else have you heard from them? And hopefully all of them are doing okay. We know that you've got a little bit of an ankle injury there. I know from you being here that you're a strong guy. You'll bounce back. Have you heard anything else? Anybody that was close to the student union at that particular moment? Have you heard any other stories emerging from your campus?
Yeah. So I've been checking in with my loved ones and my friends throughout this situation. I do know of a couple people that were in the union with me. Some of them, I believe, were hunkered down. I know Ryan messaged me through Snapchat that he's safe, but I believe he was also in the union at the time. So basically what's kind of been happening is that some of the students, like myself, I was one of the people that actually had the opportunity to flee from the scene, while many others were just kind of instructed to hunker down in just the buildings around campus. I've spoken and just heard from my friends, specifically in the meteorology department, that the SWAT and local law enforcement have begun to evacuate them from the buildings to a safe location. And as JB just mentioned, FSU is establishing a point on campus, the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center. That's where
Chris,
FSU basketball
I'm
plays.
so sorry to interrupt. Can you pass that along to me again?
A suspect is in custody according to AP.
Okay, so the Associated Press is reporting that a suspect is in custody. Let's bring up that report now. Brittany will
I see it right here.
Yeah, what do you got?
According to the AP, a suspect has been taken into police custody and multiple victims were reported in a shooting at Florida State University. A person familiar with the matter told the Associated Press. The extent of the victim's injuries was not immediately known, and there were no additional details about the person who was in custody. The person was not authorized to publicly discuss details of the ongoing investigation and spoke to the AP on the condition of anonymity.
Okay, multiple hospitalizations remain. Suspect in custody. And that's what we've got right now from the Associated Press. We're going to continue to scan different organizations that we partner with to make sure that we see reports confirming as such. What is NBC News reporting at the moment?
NBC's latest update is talking to students. They are not confirming that anyone has been taken into custody, but of course that changes on a minute-by-minute basis. This is a very fluid situation. Information is coming in, and we're reporting it as we find it. But of course, we want to make sure that it is credible and coming from sources.
Yeah, it should be pointed out that even though we have a suspect in custody, the shelter in place remains. When the threat is deemed to have been dealt with by local law enforcement in tandem with, I'm sure, state and federal law enforcement, as we see here on this shot. Actually, I want to bring this up really quickly there because we see there was a police cruiser that was heading towards us, and it looks like escorting a bus there, and that's just one of the few moments in the last 20 or so minutes that we've seen any significant activity on the Macomb Street and Tennessee Street shot. But until we hear anything from the contrary, or as to whether or not this is, look, bottom line is, folks, this is still an active shooter situation until the all clear is shared on the FSU alert system with federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies working in tandem. So the FSU alert of continue to shelter in place remains. Just because a suspect is in custody does not mean that the all clear has been given just yet. We hope for an all clear as soon as humanly possible, but of course, waiting on emergency officials to issue that campus wide.
And we're combing through different agencies' websites, trying to make that confirmation on our own as well.
Yeah, different prayers, of course, coming across right now on social media. So that's we'll stay in touch with our various partners and continue to pass along information as it's received. And we'll continue to answer some questions here out of our comment section. We're right now simulcasting on WFLA News Channel 8, as well as on WFLA.com and the WFLA Facebook and YouTube pages. Brittany Muller, JB Buno with us. Brittany Muller with us. I'm JB Buno. It's been a continuous live stream now for an extended period of time. Once our TV coverage here ends in just a few minutes, we'll be continuing the conversation and continuing our coverage on WFLA.com, the WFLA Facebook and YouTube pages as well. And if you want to ask us a question, you can do so on Facebook or on YouTube live in the comment section. Chris, I would imagine hearing that a suspect is in custody, I'm sure that's somewhat of a relief, but we know that we're not through this just yet until the all clear has been given. And look, we don't know as to whether or not we have not been given any, credible information as to whether or not it was a singular threat. And just because we have the AP report, which again is coming from anonymous sources, doesn't mean that there isn't still a significant threat on campus. So we have to be cautious here, but I'm sure there's cautious optimism from your vantage point.
Yeah, it's definitely, I use this term very lightly, like some good news. I use that, in quotations. I actually want to give you guys another update I heard from some of my friends. So kind of adding on to what we were discussing earlier at the Donald Tucker Civic Center, I've just been told by one of my friends that some of the buildings near like Woodward, like the parking garage, or just around that area have been cleared. And now some of the buses that are normally, one of the transportation systems on our campus, we have buses that go around. They are taking students to the Civic Center. So that is another opportunity for students to go to a more secure location. So I did want to provide you guys with that update. But again, this is still just like you guys have been saying, this is it is still an active, ongoing situation, even though, we do know from the Associated Press that one of the suspects has now been put into custody. We have not received a all clear message from FSU Alert, and I can also vouch for that because I have not received an update in, I think you guys said roughly about an hour. FSU Alert is an app that also sends us text messages and emails. It's used during severe weather events, so if there's ever like a severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warnings, etc. But also in events like this, that is one of the primary forms of communication that the university has to its students.
All right, thank you, Chris. We're going to let our audience on WFLA News Channel 8 know we're about to return you to regularly scheduled programming. Brittany Muller and myself, we will continue the conversation on WFLA.com, the WFLA Facebook page, and the WFLA YouTube page. We continue online, but for our television audience, we will see you on our website. All right, and joining us again, live here from Florida State University is Chris Malave. Brittany Muller is joining me here in the Stream Center. We're continuously getting in new information, but for those of you just joining us, Brittany, can we rehash and bring once again the AP report back to the forefront here and go through that and just pass along the most pertinent information with the sources that the AP is talking to?
Sure. The AP is reporting that a suspect is in custody and multiple victims reported, according to AP. And they are saying that a familiar source with the matter told the Associated Press, and they were not authorized to publicly discuss the details of this ongoing investigation. So again, we are working to confirm this information independently, but that, of course, is what the AP is reporting at this time, and we're monitoring. We know local, state, federal leaders are all involved in this investigation. Students are now being brought to the Reunification Center at the Civic Center. So the investigation is unfolding, and we are waiting to hear from FSU, local police, about what exactly is happening at this hour.
Yeah, and we should pass along here as well that they have at least 6 people who have been hospitalized and 1 in critical condition. Apologies if you had stated that. 1 in critical condition, according to a spokesperson for Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. Police were called to the scene around noon. Students and faculty were, of course, as we've been talking about, instructed to continue to seek shelter and await further instructions. FBI agents are on the scene. President Donald Trump has been briefed. So it's a lot. It's a lot of the standard information that comes out in a school shooting, in an active shooter threat, as far as various state and federal officials being briefed, hearing from our local hospitals. But really the big thing that we are waiting for is the next FSU alert as to whether or not we still have an active threat on campus. It is still a shelter in place at this time. I know everyone's probably asking themselves, my goodness, why does he keep saying that? It's because it's really important to not give a false sense of security. A suspect is in custody, but this is not over with by in an official capacity. So we have to be very responsible here and making sure that we're passing along the current status of the FSU alert, which is shelter in place. Police are responding to an active shooter call at the student union at Florida State University.
And it's important to note that law enforcement is actively clearing rooms one by one. Law enforcement officers are using a safe word to confirm that it's safe to open the door, and then students are being brought to the Civic Center to be reunified. So this is it's a big process, and I know in the past, JB, that I can tell from experience as being a reporter that I've covered when local law enforcement plans one of these shootings. And so it's a multi-process part, and it's very exhausting and it's very emotional just to even see and witness that as practice. So it's all hands on deck right now between the local authorities, the hospital, the students, the school community, and they're making sure that everyone is staying safe right now.
Yeah, and let's just review the gargantuan amount of information that we do not have. We do not understand the circumstances surrounding the shooting itself. We do not have any confirmed information on how many people were involved. We have no idea as to, we have a number of people that have been hospitalized. It's 6, or I think the AP said, actually, let's not say I think, let's be sure.
The AP said 6.
At least 6 people have been hospitalized and 1 in critical condition. But we don't know if those are students. We do not know if those are faculty. You know what also, Brittany, can get a bit confusing also from a reporting standpoint and just from an understanding the story standpoint in a situation like this, is when you have a hospital reporting the number of people that are hurt or critically hurt, or if they are reporting a number of fatalities, and you don't know if the suspect or suspects are among that number. That also too can get confusing, because we do not know if the suspect is among those who are being treated at the hospital. That's something that can get particularly confusing in an active shooter situation as well.
And we know chaos ensued at this campus, so we don't know the extent of those injuries and why they're in the hospital. So we're just eagerly awaiting that information.
All right. Florida State home athletics events canceled through Sunday. I'll read this release. It's brief. All Florida State athletics home events through Sunday, April 20th have been canceled. Further updates on events scheduled for next week will be communicated when available. Florida State, one of the most recognized athletic programs in the southeastern United States. So while that might seem to be like an afterthought, and probably feels like to many it's an afterthought, canceling home athletic events is still a big deal when, of course, it comes to a student population and athletic program as large as FSU's. So passing that along, that basically athletics have been shut down even before the alert has been canceled. FSU taking getting ahead of this and canceling athletics events through Sunday.
And of course, we're going to be seeing this. This is a very fluid situation. Information is coming in on a minute-by-minute basis, and that's why we're here, to bring you that information.
We're going to bring in Chris one last time. Chris, we're going to keep the Zoom room open in the event that you would like to share something along with us, but any final words? And again, happy to hear that you are doing okay. Concerned, of course, for your classmates and the rest of the FSU family, as we again hear that at least 6 people are hospitalized as a result of what has transpired. So any final words before we say farewell and let you get back to talking with your friends and family?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, I just want to thank the Lord for keeping me safe during this horrific event. Again, I never would have ever imagined that something like this would ever happen to me. I mean, I've grown up hearing about these events, and I just never thought it could happen to me. And to see something just so horrific happen to the place that I call home. I've called FSU my home for the last 3 years as an undergraduate. It's absolutely heartbreaking, and my heart goes out to everybody that's been impacted by this awful situation. I do want to thank the FSU PD for their very quick response, and of course I would like to thank JB. Thank you guys so much for bringing me on to just allow me to share my experience. And I know that FSU is a very resilient and very strong community that we can get through this adversity together. And I know it will take the healing process will definitely take a while. Like, this will probably affect me for years. I mean, like I said, never would have imagined something like this could happen. Like, when my mind was completely focused on other things, I was, it's almost final season. I'm definitely very interested to see how the university handles these last 2 weeks of the semester. Next week being the last week of our courses here, and then of course after that is final. So definitely just a lot of uncertainty right now. But above all, I'm just really glad I'm safe. I'm just glad to be hearing from my my friends and family that they're also safe as well. I know my phone's been blowing up for the last 2 hours, but just really glad to be here and just to be here. Just really grateful just to be all things considered.
All right. Well, Chris, we appreciate you being here and being brave and telling your story and sharing your perspective with us. Please send our very best to your classmates, members of the FSU family, and look, you know where the Zoom room is. Just let us know if there's anything else you want to pass along. And thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Chris, our former intern here at WFLA News Channel 8, doing a really good job. He was a intern doing meteorology with the Max Offender 8 weather team, but putting on his news hat, his journalist hat for us, and providing his perspective. So we really appreciate him joining us. We have heard that President Trump, he has addressed the FSU situation, and we will be turning that sound around here for you shortly. In fact, he's live. I'll just show it to you here, live from the White House. This is going on at the moment, a scheduled event, but of course with the and that's a signal interruption there. Apologies for that. But with all of the press in the room, you would imagine that one of the pressing matters today that the president was asked to address is the situation unfolding at Florida State University. That is, again, one of the largest universities in President Trump's home state. Of course, he calls the White House home, but Mar-a-Lago is his home as well. And with Florida being so close to him and important for him from a family perspective, we'll be hearing his comments here momentarily. Back here with you, Brittany Muller, JB Buno here with you from the Stream Center. I am just refreshing FSU alert.
I am too. We're waiting for something. It's been over an hour now.
Yeah, it's been an hour and 7 minutes since the last update. And that, I can assure you to many, just feels like an eternity of waiting, an hour of nothing from Florida State University in an official capacity. That's I'm sure for parents they would agree that's a long time to not hear any updates. But you would have to imagine that from an FSU perspective, they are only going to put out information when they really have a update worth sharing. And as of right now, even though we have multiple reports now, right, Brittany, confirming that a suspect is in custody, we still have the continue to shelter in place.
In addition to AP News reporting that there's a suspect in custody, NBC News is now reporting the same thing. Police say a suspect is in custody in connection to the FSU shooting from earlier this afternoon. All
right. So as we continue to get information, what I want to do now is switch gears a little bit and go to our comment section. Our live stream is interactive. If you have a question that you would like to get answered, perhaps you've been very patient waiting for your question to get answered. Our hashtag system is still very much a part of our live stream. You can use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyBrittany. We're unable to make them appear on screen, but I will shout you out and we'll verbally address your comment and try our very best with the information that we have at our fingertips to answer that question. So starting now, hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyBrittany, and we'll do our very best to get information, good information out to our audience watching, regardless of platform or location. So let's see here. Brooke wants to know, hashtag HeyJB, is there any updates on where the suspect was found? That's a very interesting question because the student union has really been the focal point of our coverage. And Brittany, with so much time elapsing between us getting word that a suspect is in custody versus when the alert originally went out, there's a long gap there in time. We have seen with previous shootings in the past where the suspect isn't apprehended at the site of the shooting, but rather would be tracked, followed, or chased to a secondary location. We have no let's just get this out of the way. We have no information as to where the suspect was taken into custody, but it's entirely possible that a suspect wasn't actually taken into custody at Student Union or even on campus altogether.
Correct. We have no additional information at this time. We're waiting for official word from the Tallahassee Police Department, and they are the agency that would reveal that information.
Marcos asking about any secondary people involved as far as from a suspect perspective. We do not have any details on anything from whether or not there's multiple people involved or whether there's a singular amount of people involved. Active shooter situation just means that there's a threat. It's a very general sort of umbrella term used to describe a situation that could encompass a lot of different things. There could be multiple, there could be singular. Unless the alert specifically states the number of people involved, it's a very general sort of term, and we treat it as such. We have never on this live stream said that there is one shooter involved or multiple shooters involved, because we really do not know. All we have is the alert that went out, which was for an active shooter situation.
And to shelter in place.
Yep.
And that still remains.
Let's see here. Again, looking for any hashtag Hey JB or hashtag Hey Brittany. I'll read here from Derek, and you can take this for what it's worth, folks, because it pertains to an experience on campus. Derek says, hashtag KJB, I was in a lecture hall with 400 people in the building right next door to the incident, and would like to thank you, would like to make a thank you to the person who ran into our room and gave us a chance to escape. Wow.
That's chilling, JB.
That's chilling, yeah. Again, we have to take it for what it is as a social media comment, but if true, truly... My goodness, yeah. You'll hear of, in the aftermath of school shootings, you'll hear of those stories of heroism, right? People who did extraordinary things on what, again, it's so, school shootings are it's the worst of the worst, but my goodness, to think of just a very normal day. I mean, maybe you're focusing on that English exam that you have to take, or whether you're hanging out with your friends in the cafeteria. It's just another school day.
And there's only 2 weeks left
Right.
of the semester.
Right.
So things are starting to slowly wrap up.
Timothy says, hashtag HJB, is the school sending everyone home? No, it's a shelter-in-place order from FSU. It's a shelter-in-place alert. Law enforcement officers have been going room to room using a safe word to confirm that it is safe to open the door. And it says here, continue to shelter in place until law enforcement contacts you. So depending on where you are at the time, it's a shelter in place, and it's to remain sheltered in place. So as far as sending people home, if you sheltered in place, let's say in a lecture hall, it's until law enforcement helps you from that location and escorts you from that location. No, you're told to shelter in that place. It's not a situation where, oh, the suspect is in custody. I'm going to go home now and go to my car or walk on campus back home. No, shelter in place means shelter in place. So hopefully that makes sense to people.
Exactly. And there's a student reunification at the Civic Center. So that's also playing a role in this. Once students get the safe word and the all clear, they're able to go to that Civic Center.
Let's see here. My bet on the WFLA YouTube page, hashtag HeyJB, do you have any information about who the shooter is? No. Absolutely zero. And it might be some time before we get information. We do know that the shooter is in custody, and there's a big difference between shooter is in we should talk about this. There's a big difference between, obviously, I know this sounds obvious to people, but let's actually examine this. Big difference between suspect in custody versus suspect down, or suspect killed or deceased. So a suspect in custody is basically indicating to us and indicating to the public that the suspect is alive and in custody. Otherwise, the AP would have been told by their source in all likelihood that the suspect is deceased. But no, in custody, you would imagine, given that the Associated Press takes their job very, very seriously, is led us to believe the suspect is in police custody and alive.
JB, I also want to mention here NBC News, and of course, we're trying to turn around that sound for our viewers joining us right now.
Yep.
President Donald Trump is calling the shooting a horrible thing. He said that it's a shame, horrible thing, horrible that things like this take place, and we'll have more to say about it later.
All right, so let's cue that up here, and yeah, we're gonna load it into this spot. Stand by, folks, in the stream center. There is no person behind the scenes, loading. It's all done by us here, so stand by. Here we have President Trump addressing what has transpired at FSU.
Florida State University, Tallahassee, active shooting. I guess it's an active shooter. Fully briefed as to where we are right now. It's a shame. It's a horrible thing, horrible that things like this take place, and we'll have more to say about it later.
And that's that. So a very brief comment from President Donald Trump from the White House saying, that it will be addressed. He'll share more on it later. Obviously, he's meeting with various officials in the White House today, and we'll likely get briefed on it, and we'll be able to speak more on it when he's updated with more information, as this has been rapidly evolving.
Right, and everyone's gathering information at this time as well.
So, it's funny, I say rapidly evolving, but really from an FSU standpoint, we are now approaching, I believe, an hour and 15 minutes without an updated alert. So rapidly evolving, I'm sure, in real time on the ground. But from a parent standpoint, you're probably thinking, my God, it's been anything but rapidly evolving as far as the flow and trickle of information out of FSU. Because let's just kind of go through this. We had alerts. Well, we did have the 157 alert, but that was a secondary alert rather than a primary alert. So we had 1240, 104, the 157 secondary alert that was all classes and businesses or business operations are canceled through Friday, April 18th. Essential employees should check with their supervisors for further reporting instructions. But yeah, as far as anything regarding the shelter in place or the active shooter situation, no update in the last hour and 15 minutes, or 17 minutes now, I think it is actually.
I think everyone's on standby right now in disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
After seeing the images that are coming forward and, of course, the scene playing out, we see right there on your screen, it looks like Florida Highway Patrol escorting a bus. Behind that bus.
Oh, yeah, let's go full screen here.
Yeah, behind that bus, it looks like there's a vehicle. So it does look like someone is being escorted. We see on that street right there, we're looking at Tennessee and Macomb Street. We see deputies or maybe troopers blocking off the street. They're flooding the area. We can see ambulance and fire rescue on scene as well.
Yeah, it's limited live cameras at our disposal in a situation like this. We'll try to see if we can get Mackenzie back on the line. Perhaps she has some additional info or a new vantage point to share with us. However, the amount of live cameras are limited. We showed you this video here earlier, and we'll circle this or bring this back rather. Here's the one from Garrett Harvey, via story full, showing the classmates, or we don't actually, it could be anybody. It could be anybody running in the opposite direction of campus, crossing the street, and doing so there. In fact, traffic was very much, proceeding normally, and they had to stop to allow for that group of people to cross the street there.
And again, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare is reporting that at least 6 people have been hospitalized, including one person who's in critical condition, and that's according to a hospital spokesperson. And of course, we don't know the extent of their injuries and what that looks like right now, but we do know they're busy at work. It's a busy day for local agencies or healthcare workers in response to what unfolded at FSU earlier this afternoon.
So misinformation again in our own comment section. Let's be clear. There is no credible report that I have seen. You can use hashtag KJB and get my attention. It's part of what I do here is vetting information and also to explaining to people when we're dealing with a misinformation landmine. But I'll read your comments if you use hashtag KJB in our comment section. That basically gets my attention because it's a little bit more big, bold, and bright on my screen. But no, there are no confirmed fatalities as a result of what has transpired today at FSU. The updated count from the Associated Press, and perhaps why don't we just get a refresh from our partners if the numbers are holding true. At least 6 victims, according to the Associated Press, one of those being in critical condition, and no, we haven't seen anything about fatalities, correct?
No, nothing about fatalities. But what I can tell you, 4 minutes ago, NBC News is reporting that the Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare spokesperson is saying 1 of the 6 people are in critical condition and 5 others in serious condition.
Okay, so that's new. So the AP had reported that it was just 1 person in critical, so now we know. And look, hospitalizations can be really wide-ranging, folks. So hearing that 5 are in serious and 1 in critical is not great news, because you were hoping that the 5 other hospitalizations in this case were minor injuries, but to hear that they are in was it serious condition or serious injuries?
Serious condition.
Serious condition and critical. So 5 in serious condition, 1 in critical condition. Correct?
Correct. 5 in serious condition, 1 in critical condition. And that's according to Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, a spokesperson with the hospital.
Yeah, really, that's heartbreaking news, and we just hope that those who are in serious condition are able to pull through. Yeah, but again, going back to where this began, people in our comment section who are, I understand they're even citing certain news agencies. That doesn't mean, look, I'm going to those sites and then not seeing anything closely, close to resembling the comment that we have in the social media comment section. So be very, very careful, folks, when it comes to the misinformation that exists in our own comment section and elsewhere on social media. We have no information on fatalities at this time. But yeah, Santa Bobana in our comment section on the WFLA YouTube page saying, did they say if the suspect was one of those hospitalized? That's actually a great question. We referenced that earlier. It's entirely possible in active shooter situations like this, when numbers are getting thrown around left and right, the suspect is in custody, but that could also be with injuries, and that suspect could be among the hospitalizations. Now, it's worth noting that the AP is saying it had put that in a section about the 6, put that in a section labeled victims. So it would appear that the AP is reporting that at least 6 people have been hospitalized among victims, but we don't know whether or not.
We don't know the status of the person in custody at this time, and we're waiting for official word to learn more, the identity, and that will all come as the investigation unfolds. But right now, details are limited from what local officials are revealing and posting and sharing with us at this time.
All right, Brittany. So we're gonna be bringing in our next WFLA anchor to join us. Any final words before we say farewell and let you get back to the newsroom?
No, I'll hop off here, but know that I'll be behind the scenes and we'll be working on this story to bring to you all News Channel 8 on air later this evening.
All right, Brittany Muller reporting for us. And Brittany, thank you so much. Folks, we'll be back in 60 seconds with the latest.
I mean, it's shocking. My wife went to FSU. I have friends who've gone to FSU, know the campus very well. So to hear this so close to home, I think is a shock for a lot of people watching right now, because this is in the heart of Florida, so to speak, that a lot of people have attended that school and many still do. So I think there's still a lot of details that they work through. We're seeing a lot of stuff on social media, the rumors of how many injured, if there are anybody killed at this point. So I do see your update there, 6 victims at this point that were told from the AP. So we're following along that very closely. But again, we see this far too often across the country, but when it hits home like this, it's really tough to watch. So
yeah, we were talking earlier, FSU might be a pretty lengthy drive away. 6-7 hours is a relatively normal time for us to make it from Tampa Bay to FSU. But this feels like it's right in our backyard.
Right, it does. And so now we're starting to see some of the announcements coming up, how schools canceled, sports are delayed, all the events and all the logistical things that have to happen after that. But they're still trying to figure out how this all happened. And again, in this day and age of social media, you're seeing video pop up now, just quick updates to see how this is going to turn out. But, terrible news, and we hate seeing it at FSU.
Yeah, and we're just getting in a breaking alert from NBC News, and I'll read that report. 1 person killed in FSU shooting, according to senior law enforcement source. I'll read this from NBC News and reporter Tom Winter. There has been at least 1 fatality as a result of the shooting incident on Florida State University's campus. A senior Florida law enforcement official briefed on the matter told NBC News. The Tallahassee Police Department confirmed earlier today that 1 person was in custody in connection to the shooting. So a breaking development here from NBC News. A senior law enforcement official in Florida telling NBC News is Tom Winter that at least 1 fatality has been reported as a result of the shooting incident at FSU.
Yeah, and we know that based on the 6 people that were getting treatment in Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare. That was reported to NBC earlier today. Now, they did send out that alert, and I know you've talked about that in the last hour. Sent out an alert to school, students, faculty, staff, seek shelter, and track down that shooter, which they've done. But yeah, I think this is where you start to worry, especially covering these stories. You always hear the initial reports of the injured, and it's usually a number that generally changes when this thing's all said and done. So hopefully that's it, and then we're not going to hear any more. It's awful that a person has been killed here, but we still have at least 5 others that are injured. We don't know necessarily the severity of those injuries.
Yeah, and let's just because I know that new nugget of information is going to prompt a lot of questions in our comment section. We do not know if this was a student We do not know if this was a faculty member. All we have is that information that one person has been killed. But the second line from Tom Winter's report suggests, I want to be very clear, suggests that it's not the shooter who has been killed, because they're saying, earlier today that one person was in custody in connection to the shooting. Now, look, the fatality could have come. There could have been a mix-up. That's entirely possible. But the way that this report reads, without reading too much into it, is that we have a suspect in custody and one person who has died as a result of injuries sustained in the shooting itself.
And that is part of the initial information that comes out and is passed around quickly too. In a lot of these cases, as you get a number of injured or a number of killed, you don't know if that includes the gunman or not, and they have to revise the total at the end of the story. So pay attention to that. I mean, this could change, and that very well could be the person killed, as far as we don't know. But it's a fluid situation, as you know, and as we continue to follow. But frustrating to see just north of us at FSU.
Yeah, and so one thing that we really haven't tackled yet at this stage in the live stream, I'm going to bring up Becky's comment from the WFLA Facebook page. It reads #AJB. How have the students and faculty been informed of the safe word? If it is sent out to all students and faculty, then who is to say the suspects did not receive that safe word? I have to admit, I was wondering that myself.
That's a good point.
The safe word system is put into place so that only faculty and staff have that safe word, so that students and faculty that are in a situation where they could be in danger could use the safe word to confirm to law enforcement that
there's no threat,
that there's no threat in their particular room. But if the shooter is a faculty member or a student and has a phone on them and receives the safe word, doesn't that compromise the safe word system?
That's complex, and
it is,
and that can cause more problems too, because you think you're walking into a safe area, and here it could be the shooter, and that would end badly. So that's a good point that she brings up. I'm glad you asked that question, and we don't know exactly how that operates, especially on FSU's campus.
Right.
And I'm sure school to school, they have different policies and they have different approaches to how they manage this.
Yeah, we are now approaching, I think actually we just did hit, 90 minutes, an hour and a half since the last FSU primary alert has gone out. We had the secondary alert go out at 1:57, which was talking about, cancellations as a result of this, but the continue to shelter in place remains as of 1:04 p.m. Eastern. We're now at 2:37 p.m. Eastern time. So more than an hour and a half has passed since we got the last update from FSU. Josh, we were mentioning earlier, that is, I'm sure for parents in particular, that parents that send their students, their kids to FSU, that's a painfully long time. It's a painfully long time to wait for an update from the FSU alert system.
Right. But in terms of the response, I see just on what we're seeing in terms of video and in terms we're seeing from first responders, the response was big. It was fast. And soon after this started, I feel like they did have control of the situation. But again, we're still trying to wonder what that death toll looks like, and we don't like to have to approach it, but one person has been killed in this case, and we still have several more injured. So it's frustrating to kind of wait, as you see, to see how deadly this turns out to be, and how quickly they can get it resolved and get people safe and back. It's going to be a while before they get back in class, but this has already turned deadly, and we hate to see that.
It's interesting. I have this comment from YouTube Live, and look, any new information that comes along here, we're going to pass along to you immediately. But this is a interesting question from Real Chill on YouTube Live. Hashtags for us both, you and me. Josh says, has information gathering and verifying gotten easier over the years, or has it always been hectic? That's a question about our process here. I guess you want. I'll address it.
For us or for responders?
No, I think he's alluding to for us.
For us. Well, the biggest thing for us is don't jump to conclusions and don't go crazy reporting details you see unless it's absolutely confirmed. So you'll see on TV or wherever you get your news that one outlet may be saying something way different, and one outlet will be saying something on the polar opposite. And that is due to sources. That is due to law enforcement specifically coming out of information. Some agencies may get it first. Some agencies may have a direct contact who tells them. So there's so many variables that go into trying to confirm the actual details of an investigation like this that you have to be really careful, because the adage is once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't get it back in. So you don't want to go out and over-report or report false information. So we have to be very careful on what we can confirm and what we hear. Now, NBC News, a national outlet, is very good. AP is very good. We work with them to help confirm these details. And once we have those, then we can bring that to you, like in this situation right now where we can confirm that a person has been killed. Are there more? Possibly. And we will update that if that happens. But I think that's the challenge. You just have to slow everything down, even though it's a very fluid and hectic situation. Slow everything down, wait for that information to come, and let the reporters do their jobs in tracking down the sources who can tell them the truthful information. Stay off of social media, because that is just rampant with everything you can imagine.
Landmines all over the place.
Yeah.
I think that the methods that officials and various agencies use to inform the public has really evolved over the years. Social media is now not like this, secondary means of contacting people. It's really apps, push alerts, and social media is like the primary way that law enforcement agencies reach out to a large amount of people in a very short amount of time. Our process, from a reporting standpoint, I think has mostly stayed relatively true. We still work the phones. I mean, we're still, trying to get a hold of people, contacts, and whether our methods have changed as far as how we contact those people. It's still, look, we still have our standards that we try to hit,
right,
and we strive to hit before we report information. So,
and I think it's interesting.
Times have changed a bit, but it's really, we still try to do our very best.
And I think responders have done a good job too, because before, agency to agency, it's been a challenge to try to work together. And you see this all across the country, and you see this here in Florida, even within cities across the country in some cases, where agencies have a tough time connecting. They have a tough time sharing information. But I think over the years, with how fast information is shared, like you talk about, I think agencies have done a better job to connect and work toward the end goal of solving an investigation and getting the proper information out to news outlets. So I think it's gotten better over time, because there's been so many mistakes made by so many agencies in the past that I think you'll learn every time something like this happens.
Look, I'm gonna bring this up because we're on the live stream and enough people have brought this to my attention that I would like to at least address it, even if we're not going to spend too much time addressing it. I am familiar. I have seen the WFTV report. It's an outlier right now. And I understand that people who have been commenting at me left and right for an extended period of time now saying, JB, look at this, JB, look at this. I appreciate people bringing it to my attention. I'm aware of the WFTV report. I'll just leave it at that. We're monitoring that agency in particular as far as where they're getting their information from, and whether or not there's any other outlets that also report that information. But as of right now, that is an outlier report, and we do not have any of that information confirmed at this time.
Yeah, and I'd like to touch on that. I worked at WFTV, and I know they're very buttoned up over there. It's a very good news organization. Of course, that was 10 years ago. I don't know what it's like now, but for an agency like that to come out and just report that without any really rock solid source would surprise me immensely. So I'm not saying, as you said, we can't confirm it. If they have a source that they've confirmed it with, and they're confident on that source. This is exactly what we talked about earlier. If you have a source and you feel confident, then the national news outlets and the cable news outlets go through the very same thing. And some reporters in outlets of, cable or national who've been doing this 20, 30 years have cultivated those relationships with insiders within law enforcement or wherever to, if there's a plane crash, for instance, and the FAA, and they have an insider who is really big on airlines and aeronautics, they can help confirm that information. And if they're confident enough, and that's a decision by the station to make, yes, this is a solid lead and this is a solid source, we'll go with that information. Someone at FTV, many people at WFTV have confirmed that, hey, this is good enough for us, we're going to go with it. So it's a big drastic change from what we have.
Yes.
And this could balance out and will balance out in the end, but this is where you have to be careful.
Extremely careful. And we're not saying anything in regard, I'm not putting that report in the It's Not True corner. It's a report that is so different than what everybody else is reporting right now that it just has to be treated as such. It's got to be treated as an outlier right now. We, of course, have various media partners that we associate ourselves with, whether it's NBC News or the Associated Press. News Nation is a really big part of the Nexstar family and who we use as far as getting information and reporting accurate information. And with our various partners and even other large network entities, we're not seeing anything resembling that report right now. So we'll kind of leave it at that. We'll move on. But for everybody saying, JB, look at that particular report, I do see it, but we do not have that information confirmed.
And just because they say it doesn't mean we're going to run with it.
Agree.
And even when this started, initially was 4 people injured. I think the first report I saw was 4 people injured, 1 critically and 3 stable. We'll look at it now. 1 killed and 5 or 6 more injured, and we don't know.
All right, we got an update. FSU Alert has posted the following. I don't know if it's a primary alert or a secondary yet, but let me just read it in its entirety. All Florida State University classes and business operations on the main campus in Tallahassee are canceled through Friday, April 18th. Essential employees should check with their supervisors for further reporting instructions. All FSU athletics events in Tallahassee are canceled through Sunday. Students who need assistance can go to the Donald L. Tucker Center, where the university is providing counseling, healthcare, and other support services. Family members are also to go to the Tucker Center for assistance. Students, faculty, and staff are asked to call their loved ones as soon as possible to update them on their status. The student union and the surrounding area is still considered an active crime scene. Individuals should avoid the area. Students should not return to the student union to retrieve personal property at this time. Here it is. Students may return to their residence halls, but they should otherwise stay indoors on the main campus to allow first responders and university staff to do their jobs and respond to those needing assistance. Students may depart campus for the weekend. All classes have been canceled through Friday.
And as you read that, the FSU alert came out as well, saying it's an emergency message to Florida State University Tallahassee campus, which says to continue to shelter in place. As you mentioned, law enforcement actively clearing rooms on the main campus. Law enforcement officers will use the safe word to confirm it is safe to come out. So super active still. We thought maybe reports of the gunman were complete, but that they're not taking any risks here. They're still having people shelter in place, and as you said, JB, a lot more instruction on how to handle this.
As we see some activity on the Tennessee Street camera, there was a car or a police cruiser that was making a very, very fast left-hand turn there that I caught out of the corner of my eye. Josh, it's just look, you know me, I tell it like it is. It's a little interesting to me. I have to admit that this doesn't address the threat. It doesn't say that the threat is over. It doesn't say the threat is still ongoing. It just says that the area is still considered an active crime scene. So,
and I came into it late. So where did you get the last update on the suspect?
Or
suspects?
Well, continue to shelter in place. Law enforcement is actively clearing rooms on the main campus. Continue to shelter in place until law enforcement contacts you. That's the latest guidance from FSU. So they're not addressing anything regarding the threat itself or the shooter itself. I have to mention the other report did mention a difference of what we understand now as to whether or not it's a singular shooter or otherwise. So this is where it gets. This is where clear messaging is extremely helpful. And right now, while it is very, very clear here that students may return to their residence halls, but should stay indoors on the main campus to allow first responders and university staff to do their jobs and respond to those needing assistance, it's still just a little bit unclear as to whether or not the threat itself has been dealt with and whether or not a continue to shelter in place is still officially. This is not an all clear by any means. No.
And now we're starting to hear from some of the people on campus too. NBC reporting that a junior is now talking to the Mackenzie Heater. She was on campus. I'll just read what she said. I was leaving the union with my food. There was a road next to it, and I was walking with this guy who pulls up in an orange Hummer, gets out with a rifle and shoots in my direction.
Whoa.
There were a couple other kids near me, she explained, and I think he was shooting and he missed. He then goes back into his car and grabs a pistol and then turns and shoots the lady in front of him. And that's when I just started running. She said she heard about 15 rounds fired for about 20 to 30 seconds. She then called the police at 11:57 p.m. to report the shooting. And she described the shooter as a normal college dude who was wearing an orange T-shirt and khaki shorts. Described him as white with light hair and driving a Hummer.
I'm sorry. Wait, what was he wearing?
Orange T-shirt and khaki shorts.
So it was an orange T-shirt wearing guy in an orange Hummer.
That's what I'm saying. If you want to be noticed, that's what you were. I mean, unbelievable.
Orange
right?
is most notably a color that you use to attract attention. That's why so many times you'll see various, vests being worn.
Well, blaze orange for deer hunting. I mean, that's
right.
That's what they wear. So other hunters don't shoot them when they're hunting, and because deer can't see orange, blaze orange.
If you're trying to conceal yourself, you don't wear orange.
Yeah. So she said at first she said thought there was a BB gun, but when she heard him fire, she knew it was real. And then she says when he turned back around with the pistol, I saw him shoot the lady right in front of him. She was probably like 5 feet in front of him with the pistol. She said the woman was in purple scrubs and didn't appear to be a student or faculty. So it's a very detailed account from NBC News from a student who saw this play out in real time.
Wow. Yeah, I'm still reading the alert and still a little just kind of puzzled even by how it's how they stacked this information. Students who need assistance can go to the Donald L. Tucker Center for counseling, healthcare, and other services. But then later on it says this is still an active crime scene. Individuals avoid the student union area, stay indoors. Allow first responders and university staff to do their jobs. So it's just I'm just trying to make sure that it's
confusing for students too, because maybe they do have the guy and maybe they're uncertain about a second person. Seems like every time we talk about this, there's always the rumor of a second person.
Sure. And it seems like there's uncertainty here.
Yes, always.
Yep.
It always seems to happen. So then when you come down to it, in the end, it was actually one shooter who did this. I mean, typically and historically, that seems to be the case. I don't know what the case is here, but maybe they're just being extra careful and they really haven't cleared all the rooms yet. So they're not comfortable coming out and saying, this is one guy, we got him down, he's at the hospital or he's dead. They haven't been able to say that because they're just not done yet.
Yeah, so
they just want people to chill and hang out where they're at, if possible. I'm surprised to say if you're leaving, go ahead and leave, but because it kind of goes against the shelter-in-place idea.
And the conflicting reports out there also create some murkiness, I think it's safe to say, because FTV being in the Orlando market. So if you're a mom in the Orlando market getting your information from that news entity, and then you're a mom in Tampa getting, let's say, information from us here at WFLA, and these two moms are talking back and forth and saying, yeah, my local station is reporting X. And then the Orlando mom says, no, my local station is reporting Y. And then all of a sudden you have all of these mixed signals that are being spread around. We're supposed to be, as the media, we're supposed to be helping people with the best information and the most credible information. So when there's contradictory reports out there, that just muddles the water even more. So clearly, and this is so common, Josh, you noted it earlier, in an active shooter situation, in a developing situation like this, it's so common for there to be just an abundance of misinformation, and that all plays out in real time on social media, including live streams in our comment section, being included in that without question.
We're starting to get video too from students who are being escorted out by authorities in the buildings next to where the shooter was. So as you see that on social media now, we're starting to get it confirmed, and NBC has some from a student right now who is in the building next door. They've been brought out by authorities and probably told to go to a safe space.
So one more time, I'm going to read this. This is really important. The student union and the surrounding area is still considered an active crime scene. Individuals should avoid the area, again, of the student union. Students should not return to the student union to retrieve personal property at this time. Students may return to their residence halls, but they should otherwise stay indoors on the main campus to allow first responders and university staff to do their jobs and to respond to those needing assistance. Students may depart campus for the weekend. All classes have been canceled through Friday. So it basically, if you are in a position of safety nowhere close to the student union and you've been sheltering in place, it's as I read this, it's a you can go home and hug your mom, hug your dad, hug your loved ones, hug your dog, and whether you're coming home to Orlando or Tampa or Jacksonville or Miami or Pensacola, wherever you're going home to, you can depart for the weekend provided that you are following the guidance of the FSU alert and doing so as safely as possible.
But it's so horrific for parents to watch and listen to this, especially if their kid goes to FSU not knowing that they know the location of where it happened, but a lot of the times there's just no rhyme or reason why these people do this, why they go to a certain location and why they go after the people they go after, like this account that you heard from this woman earlier, who said she saw a woman in purple scrubs get shot. That's just awful. Like, what's going through your mind right now? Wondering, like, is my kid safe? Like,
I'll add to some more. We're talking about now how this has been a really confusing last 20 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. The FSU alert that just went out 9 minutes ago on Facebook reads, "Continue to shelter in place."
Yeah, that's the one we read earlier. Yep.
Right. Oh, so that's where you were. Okay. So you were getting that from Facebook.
It was on X as well. Yep.
So it points you to alerts.fsu.edu, where that alert went out. But the alert that went out on Facebook at the same exact time is not the alert that went out on the website. So
that's what you were reading the first one. I was reading the second one, which I almost read at the same time. So they were interesting.
So the FSU alert that went out on Facebook says continue to shelter in place. And then the FSU alert that went out over their website, alerts.fsu.edu, says returns may return to their residence halls. Basically what I was just reading, and it's the extended alert. And then here's what's most curious. Ready for this, Josh? The most liked comment on that Facebook post comes from Ellie, and it's in all caps, and it says, "Why would you share the safe word?"
Yeah, because it's out there now.
So I think
Ellie, they're confident they have whoever it
is among those confused by the safe word system, and you'll have to count me among those a bit confused, only because, to our point earlier, if you're sharing the safe word and you go to that school and you have the safe word, does that not defeat the purpose of the safe word? Doesn't that compromise the entire integrity of the safe word system that's been put into place?
Well, and they could be working with law enforcement and already know where they're at, so they may be putting that out there to say, hey, the safe word is null and void at this point because we already got the guy and we know people are safe. We just want to make sure there's no other problems. Yeah, but then the word would be important, but it's not the case at this point.
I think that we got some folks listening in our newsroom. A lot of comments have just come in the last minute or two pertaining to the announcement of a press conference. Josh, we'll both of I will keep our eyes peeled for that of an official announcement of a press conference. That's pretty standard for an active shooter story, and when officials feel like they have a pretty good, or at least somewhat of a good grasp on the situation, enough information to at least come forward and hold a press conference. That will happen. Sometimes that can happen hours later, not minutes later, but let's see here. Yes, thank you. There it is. Okay, so hold on, I want to make sure that I have this information right. I'm just checking this before I say it. Okay, yes. TXL is going to be, we're crediting them. There's going to be an Associated Press news, or excuse me, a signal that is going to be making its way to us in the Stream Center with the help of AP News. That is a press conference that we are going to be carrying live at 4 o'clock Eastern. That is 1 hour and 1 minute from now. Josh, you're on the news tonight. You're on broadcast. You're on
we'll
at 4.
Start the newscast with that most likely. And a lot of times these aren't on time, but we'll see if it hits right at the top of the program. But we'll be ready to take it when they take it live.
Yes, but so right as news was popping up in our comment section about a press conference, our director of news and Digital passed along a note to me saying, yes, there is a press conference at 4 o'clock, and we will be carrying that live here on this live stream, and we will get updated information regarding what has happened today at FSU.
It'll be interesting to see. That kind of tells me that I think it's under control. This is just my opinion, and that they've got a count of injured, killed, and they're just going to give us an update. That's usually what would happen. Otherwise, I think they would rush it a little faster if there was still an active scene to say, in 10 minutes, like, let's get the word out there. Hey, we still got to find the guy, or we still got to assess the situation. There's still going to be another problem. Don't go anywhere, All
right. So this all makes sense now. I refreshed the page at 2:44 p.m. when the initial alert about...
Oh, so it was old?
No, it wasn't old. It was separated by seconds. There were two alerts that went out at 2:44 p.m. Eastern, and I just happened to be refreshing at the exact moment when the initial alert went out. So
they updated it.
They did.
Okay.
So shelter in place is still in effect.
That's the latest one too.
Yes, it's the latest one. So that's where things got really confusing.
So, but the one you were talking about was earlier than that. So they said you can go and you can leave and whatever, but then they came out with the one that says shelter in place. So,
right, but they were seconds apart. So the one that reads, the student union and the surrounding area is still considered an active crime scene. That one came out, and then within 60 seconds, they added almost like a footnote, continue to shelter in place.
Wow. So
that's where things got a little bit, and my apologies if my system didn't update or if I didn't see that, but so those two alerts went out simultaneously but it doesn't change the fact that on Facebook, that alert about the student union and is considered an active crime scene, that didn't go out on Facebook. So they're still just, trying to get all of our ducks in a row here, so to speak.
Right. So they said 4 o'clock for the news conference.
4 o'clock.
Okay.
In fact, I'm going to put that in the chat here as well. So, update. 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, press conference scheduled. So, thank you. All right, so now we have a new live picture to show our audience. Let's bring this in. And news crews have now been getting closer and closer to campus. Obviously, when a active shooter situation occurs, there's going to be that perimeter that is set up and closed roadways, and news crews are not able to get close to where the shooting occurred. And now, there you can see a little cameo there. News crews are getting past certain perimeter points and are getting closer to the student union. Probably not at the student union, but closer than they were previously. And now we're getting live pictures just like this one. So we'll pay attention to this. So of course, when we go to it, it's a photojournalist who is carrying a camera somewhere. You know what? So we'll come back.
Let him
to
get
that.
set up. Yeah.
Let's let him get set up before we're looking at something we have no idea what it is. All right, yeah, that was a pretty confusing 20 minutes, but at least at least we have a better idea as to what led us to this point. I want to be clear, though, the outlier report that I referenced earlier, I am still not seeing that information anywhere whatsoever. Have you, Josh? Have you seen anything resembling
the
that?
FTV report?
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. We're going to mute mics. Earlier, I am still not seeing that information anywhere whatsoever. Have you, Josh? Have you seen anything resembling
the
that?
FTV report?
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. We're going to mute mics. We're still here, folks. We're just checking in on some developments that have just come in. Stand by. All right, coming back in here, back to, and let's bring our shot from the scene back. Let's bring back the outlier report that we referenced earlier, Josh.
Let's just say what it is. WFTV was reporting that 5 people were dead, and they just walked back that report, now stating that Florida State University is shooting multiple people hospitalized, buildings evacuated, and 1 critically injured. So this is what you want to avoid in journalism. You want to be very careful about what you report in terms of number of people dead, details. We just talked about the sources. Mm-hmm. So for them to pull back their headline on their website is, first of all, shocking to me because, like I said, they've always been very buttoned up. They must have gotten some information they were comfortable with. They've taken that stance, and then they walked it back. So the good news is this could be the case where 5 people are not dead, and that's huge relief for a lot of people. Now, 1 person has been confirmed dead or killed, as we're reporting, and being very careful to report that. But boy, what they were reporting is a big difference from what we're reporting at this time, as you mentioned.
Yeah, no. Now, as I look on that particular station's website, I don't see any sign of their initial report, which did create a lot of confusion because it was so contradictory to the other reports that were out there widespread. And that particular news organization that Josh referenced, look, that is a well-known establishment in the Orlando market, and for them to now be reversing course, pulling a 180 on that report, it speaks volume. But it goes back to exactly what we were saying earlier. It was an outlier report. And we referenced it as such because it was so vastly different to what everybody else was hearing and reporting at the time. So,
but that's what's hard about journalism and doing it well and doing it right is that you need sources to do your job and get the information that the public needs to know, and you need to trust them. And it takes years and years and years to build that trust up. And it doesn't mean that the sources are trying to do wrong to you. They just may have gotten it wrong, or they may have gotten some bad information. It's just so critical that it's synthesized and it's reviewed and it's approved upon before you go out with a headline. So I'm shocked. But listen, nationally this happens. It's not an excuse, but it happens. It's happened in the past for the biggest news outlets in the world.
Yeah, and it happens most of all in breaking news situations where things are developing rapidly and everyone's working the phones and you look. Yeah, no. So
and a hat tip to Rebecca Berry, who's our meteorologist here, who should be working on weather, but she's paying attention to news today as well.
Yeah, very, very much on it because I refreshed like crazy and I didn't see it until they updated.
Let's get her out of weather and get her into news.
Yeah, I've been. Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli is saying no, absolutely not. Can't take Rebecca Berry from that team. But yeah, hat tip to Rebecca. Our meteorologist here is saying we can't have Rebecca.
But that is a big development for just what people have been most interested in, JB, asking you, like, have you seen the report? Have you seen the report? Obviously, it was the most popular opinion of the hour and people are really concerned because it's such a dire report. So a little bit of relief to know that they've walked it back, and they may not have the proof they thought they had in terms of reporting that, and that's good news for the storyline and for people who have loved ones up there, because that was an awful headline.
Yeah, and so that's in the rearview mirror. We can now assure people that that the fatality count that was reported by that one news organization, they have reversed course on that, and it remains what you see on your screen. One person has been killed, and as we believe it, the last that we had heard was 5 critical. Excuse me. Let me walk that back. 5 seriously injured, 1 in critical condition. Now, where things do get a bit confusing is we have one person who is confirmed to be dead, speaking to the Associated Press. That then was later verified by NBC News. So we have multiple reputable news organizations that are reporting that at the same time. What you don't know is if the fatality that occurred was among the initial 6 that were reported to be injured. Did somebody succumb to their injuries, or is this additional? We also do not know if the shooter is among those injured. That hasn't been specified. But look, we have a press conference that's going to start in about 50 minutes from now, and we will at least get some new information in that press conference. And we hope, we don't know for certain, but we hope that there will be an opportunity for reporters in the room to ask questions and address certain concerns that the public has regarding the situation.
You have an update coming in. I want to read this while you look your update over.
Yeah, we got a lot.
This is important too, because of so many people who have students up there at FSU. If you're a parent, if you're a loved one here in town, and you're really full of anxiety and distress, no doubt, like, this is a scary situation. And the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay reached out to us. They have staff who can speak on the emotional trauma of the situation, how people can cope, how they can deal with what they're hearing. It's not fun to sit and listen to us and get updates about what's happening there if you have a student who's going there. But if you need to talk with somebody, there's a phone number I'm going to give you now. You can, first of all, call 813-410-4129. I'll say that again in a second. Otherwise, easy, just call 211 on your cell phone. And that was Ken Gibson from the Senior Director of Marketing and PR for Crisis Center at Tampa Bay. Thank you, Ken, for sending that over to us. Hats off to you for helping people out. And just know there are resources there for, like, you can't handle the news, you don't know what to think, you can't get a hold of anybody, you're freaking out. Give 211 a call. They're gonna walk you through it, calm you down a little bit, and kind of help decipher what some of this news means, even as we're trying to figure out what it means.
Yep. Please, folks, use the resources that you have available to you.
One more time. I'll do that number one more time. 813-410-4129. Otherwise, just call 211.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. So there were various reports, or excuse me, alerts rather, that went out at 2:44, and just confirming that a little bit of that got mixed up slightly at 2:44 when 2 separate alerts went out, and not all of the alerts made it onto all platforms, but they added or I don't know if they added, but it's very clear at the top of the FSU alert page: status, Tallahassee main campus, shelter in place. So it's might be a bit confusing. Shelter in place, but then also you may return to your residence halls, but stay indoors on the main campus, allow first responders and staff to do their jobs. And if your students may depart campus for the weekend. So the page begins with continue to shelter in place, and then it ends with students may depart campus for the weekend. So there's a little bit of some confusion in the messaging. That's not all that strange for this sort of situation with an active shooter. University officials, you would imagine they're doing their very, very best to get a clear and concise message out to people, but it can be very, very hard given that this was, something that happened so suddenly, normal morning/afternoon at FSU, and then all of a sudden it's anything but.
Yeah, I'm just still kind of looking at this headline that was changed.
What
It's
over on
just
that?
at FTV. It's really surprising.
That's your old shop, right?
It is, yes. And honestly, one of the best places I ever worked at the time. I mean, it was really so focused, so hyper, it's so wild about news, and just so buttoned up in every way, shape, and form. So,
Yeah,
again,
I can hear it in your voice. You're
TV.
so,
Well,
you're
no, the
pretty
TV,
surprised.
the TV business has changed dramatically. You know, resources aren't where they used to be. I mean, it's just a difficult business to try to continue to do the job people expect. And you know, we have to learn how to do that, and it can be a big challenge. And so, a lot of places have changed. A lot of places have suffered. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that that's just a shocking walk back, knowing how they operated in the past.
Yeah. So it would appear that the information that has made it out to the rest of us appears to be very consistent. And so that's, you don't want to use the word reassuring, but at least it gives us an idea as to what the situation is at present, which is one person dead and somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 5 to 6 more injured. As Josh noted earlier, it's common sense. We just hope that the fatality count stays where it is. We do not want to see anyone else lose their life as a result of what has transpired today at FSU. But we're going to find out more in the 4 o'clock press conference, which is getting set up now. A podium shot. I see it on my screen. They're setting everything up for the Florida State University press conference. You would imagine that a lot of different law enforcement agencies are going to be represented, and it's going to be interesting to see, just how much they know at this point. And usually, with active shooter situations, the first press conference, they can only give so much because it's still a very active situation, and usually an active investigation, who the suspect or suspects are, what the situation is at the hospital. These are things that are developing for them behind the scenes, minute by minute. So to pinpoint a time and say this is what the situation is at that moment, it can be like, blindly throwing a dart at a dartboard when they're just trying to keep up with all the information as it's transpiring in real time. It can be really challenging from a law enforcement perspective, from a university perspective. You're trying to do everything that you can to get the latest information out to people. But we do have this moment in time now, 4 o'clock in Tallahassee for the press conference, and we're going to carry that press conference here live.
The crisis center. Did you speak with them? Are they coming on?
Yeah, I know that you passed that on. I'm sorry.
We just made a note about it that people can call if they need some resources.
Let's mute my. You're good. All right. Josh Benson, JB Buno, here with you in the Stream Center. Josh, how much longer you got with us? Probably another 20 minutes, roughly, give or take. And we continue to monitor the situation at Florida State University. I'm curious if their Facebook situation. Oh, wait, did they? No. Facebook still is a continue to shelter in place, and an increasing number of likes on the question for Florida State. Why would you share the safe word? Yeah, I mean, I like, and that's perhaps a question. I mean, that's a question that can be asked now or later, but you would imagine that when reporters are following up on this and looking back at how everything went down, I mean, look at what happened in Texas in Uvalde, right? I mean, how that was. That school shooting, there was so much being dissected in real time. I think obviously very, very different situation than what we are dealing with here. But it just goes to show that a school shooting will impact lives forever, and how they will be evaluated afterwards. I mean, that's a process that could last months, if not years. How every decision that is made in these critical minutes, right, when lives are at stake, can be put under the microscope and analyzed as to whether or not it was handled correctly. And one thing that has started to rise up here as far as the question is, what exactly was the purpose of the safe word, and is that a system that was properly utilized and put into place to keep people safe? It's called a safe word.
Right.
Did the safe word keep people safe? I think is a very fair question to ask, and one that will be asked, I'm sure, repeatedly in the days, weeks, months ahead.
And I think here's the challenge is, a lot of far too many of these school shootings have happened. Obviously in Florida, we know all too well. The Parkland, for instance, in that situation, a brutal situation where there was the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Commission. That was born out of what happened in the tragedy there. And so that was a step in trying to figure out how can we prevent this from happening again. You remember Parkland was an awful situation, and we even heard from Jamie. Actually, no, it was the father of Jamie Gutenberg, who was a 14-year-old who was killed in that 2018 shooting. And he just came out saying just minutes ago, America is broken. As a father, all I ever wanted after the Parkland shooting was to help our children be safe. And that's Fred Gutenberg talking here. And you've probably heard his name. You've probably seen him speak because he's very vocal. Obviously, he lost his daughter, so I don't blame him. He's very vocal about trying to shut this down. So when he sees something like this, sadly, because of the many people who refuse to do the right things about reducing gun violence, I'm not surprised by what happened today. That's what he said. And he even added that some of the Parkland survivors, this is what's crazy, Parkland survivors, current students at FSU right now. So not only did they go through it then, some of them may have been directly impacted by what happened at FSU today. And that simply isn't fair as a student, as a child, as a family. So just to have to report on this in Florida yet again is frustrating and sad,
Yeah, and really hurts for a lot of folks. Let's see here. Is this FSU alert? Oh, okay. Wait, I just refreshed it. Okay, no, this is significant. 3:20. All right, so literally in the last 90 seconds, I refreshed it 91 seconds ago, it feels like. Law enforcement has neutralized the threat.
There we go.
Please avoid the Student Union, Bellamy, HCB Classroom Building, Rovetta A and B, Moore Auditorium, Shaw, Pepper, Hecht House, and Caraway, as they are still considered an active crime scene. Individuals are free to move about the other areas of campus. Individuals who may have witnessed anything of value should call 850-891-4987. I'll read that again. Individuals who may have witnessed anything of value should call this phone number, 850-891-4987. So the big header on this one, yeah, so this is the concise sort of message that I thought we were going to get with the last update, which is law enforcement has neutralized the threat. Now, it doesn't say that it's funny, Josh, I want to give people this reassurance that the threat is no longer on campus. I have to report here. It's my job to report to you that the header on the page, if you go to alerts.fsu.edu, it still says status Tallahassee main campus shelter in place. So the very first text that you see says shelter in place, and then it says law enforcement has neutralized the threat. So I can't,
and it could be just a challenge of them getting their systems updated. And I think this is why we're going to see the 4:00 news conference. Authorities can give us an update on, the person involved, injured, killed, situation there actively. What FBI's on the ground there. All these agencies are there now, so that investigation is ramping up. So I'm glad that came out now, so people can be rest assured that there's no more carnage on the way. Hopefully, and that we'll get a firm update at 4:00 in about 40 minutes or so on what happened today.
Yeah. So I'm with Josh. It would appear to be just more of a formatting thing or a technical reason as to why the header on the page still says shelter in place.
They wouldn't come out and say that the threat is neutralized if they were concerned there was somebody else running around. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They would be very careful. Again, it goes back to like make your decision and make sure it's right. Authorities really got to make it right.
I just
there's so many people.
I can't like. I feel like I still have to call it like it is. You know what I mean? The page still says one thing and says the other. But yes, I completely agree. The threat has been neutralized by law enforcement, according to the FSU alert system, and I am sure that is a relief to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who, if you don't call FSU your current home, perhaps you're an alum, perhaps you have a connection, a family member or a friend who goes to FSU. I think that there was likely with that particular alert a collective sigh of relief with them emphatically stating that law enforcement has neutralized the threat. It's certainly reassuring.
Right.
But all of those areas that I listed still considered an active crime scene. Individuals are free to move about other areas of campus. And then, yeah, look, clearly it's an active investigation, Josh, because they're saying there at the end, individuals who witnessed anything to call 850-891-4987. So they're accepting tips, information from anybody who saw all of this go down.
Yeah, and that'll be that way for a while in case, maybe a bag was found or maybe case shellings were found, anything related to the investigation that can help them. I think they just want extra eyes for all the students to say, hey, if you see something weird, let us know. They want to figure this out as quickly as possible.
Yep. So again, for those of you just joining us, we are now about 25 minutes away, 35 minutes away from that 4:00 scheduled press conference. They have set up a podium. We do not know who exactly will be speaking at this time, representing what agencies. We do know that this is a Florida State University called press conference, so that will hopefully get us some answers, so to speak.
Well, this is interesting. AP talking about this isn't the first shooting at Florida State.
Brittany had noted
2014,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
3 people in 2014 were shot just outside the inside of the entrance of the Stozier Library in the middle of FSU's campus.
Yeah, reading some more.
Very frustrating, though, for especially parents. And we're coming up on the end of the year. I think students are just they're excited to be done. They're excited to move on with what the next year looks like, the summer vacation, and this just creates a hole in that joy and that excitement, and slows everybody down and really shocks everybody, because college is supposed to be the best time of your life. You go there and you have fun, and you get to finally become an adult and make your own decisions. I remember it was crazy. Just the ability to say, I'm going to do this because I say so, as a kid, that was such a cool moment.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to deal with this kind of stuff, let alone lose your life over it.
I want to pass along just one final note on the WFTV report from earlier. They have officially put out a correction, and I'll read it as follows. An earlier report indicated 5 people were killed. The extent of injuries and casualties has been unclear as law enforcement continues to work to confirm events of the day as they continue to sweep the campus.
Where'd you see that?
That's on the on the article.
Okay.
On the article. So
good for them for acknowledging it, instead of just trying to change the headline and not bring attention to it.
Correct. Josh, can you take the mic for about 60 seconds or so
Sure
as
thing.
I update some things here
You
off
bet.
camera?
Yep.
Ooh, let's bring.
Did you have any questions that people were asking that we can delve into, or is it?
Yeah,
I
let
can't
me
control it. If you're busy, that's fine.
No, it's okay. Let me bring some. I'll bring up let me bring up a few comments for you to chime in on. I'm being told that our former intern Chris, who we had on the stream earlier, was just interviewed by CNN. That's interesting.
Good.
Stacy says in our comment section, #AJB, I can't understand why so many of these are happening. The mental decline of this nation is just mind-boggling. You can use #AJB or #AJosh for the next few minutes, and we'll be spotlighting your comments. But that one, I mean, it feels as if is this the norm now? Just shootings.
Well, listen, we ask these questions every time this happens, and we go through the same narrative of trying to figure out how to prevent it, and then it turns political almost immediately, as this one will. I'm already starting to see the chatter about, gun laws. That's going to be front and center for the next month plus, and it has been since the last one, and it continues to be. If are guns too easily accessible for students or for young people or for adults in general and people who shouldn't have guns? And I'm definitely not going to go into the politics of it, but I'm just knowing that asking that question, is this going to be more common? And stats will show that it happens far too often when you look at America. If we look at other countries, we were just talking about this yesterday. We took a trip to London recently, my family and I, and we were at a playground, and right next to Kensington Palace, where there's this big grassy area, and there's this little chain link fence, and then a helicopter came in, and we're like, that's one of the royals. That's a member of the royal family. We couldn't believe it. And everybody starts running over to the fence, and they land this chopper literally 20 yards from the fence of the playground. I'm like, surely that's not a royal. Like, there's no way. And surely enough, it was. At first, it got out. I thought it was the king at first, and I looked, and it was the Duke of Gloucester, I think, after figuring it out, because I don't know my royals at all. And it was the Duke. So very well-known person when it comes to the royal family. But what shocked me the most is that it was only 20 to 30 yards away, zero security. And, if that was in America and you had the president landing 20 or 30 yards away, can you imagine how that would have been swept? That would have been secured. That would have been A, B, C, D, E to make sure the president or whoever it was from the presidential family was safe. So that really stuck out to me as something that, the U.S. is different when it comes to other countries. And do we have a gun problem? People will say yes. People will say no. People will say we need to have more opportunities to grab guns. And it's just a back and forth, and the politics will continue into the end of time, I feel like, until laws change or until rules are made where, maybe a student can't get access to a gun. So that will be the discussion now moving forward, and it will call on lawmakers to tighten up the guns, and it'll be a back and forth. But in the meantime, this does continue to happen. I feel far too often. It's shocking to see this happen at FSU. Like, this is a college that we know so well. Go Noles, and it's now the worst headline you can read. And unfortunately for at least one family and several other, they've lost their loved one, and their others are injured at this point. We don't know how badly.
So I want to pass along, because I have to finish one or two more things before we get ready for the 4 o'clock Eastern press conference. But we have multiple comments in our comment section, Josh, for I'm going to throw your way. But basically the essence of the question is, what are we expecting to hear at 4 o'clock? What are some of the things that information-wise could come out in the 4 o'clock press conference?
I think you're going to get a narrative about what happened, time things started happening, when law enforcement responded, what they saw. First of all, if they have the suspect in custody, which sounds like they do, they'll explain who it is. If they can release the identity. Maybe it's too soon, but they'll say, age and whatever. If it was a student or not, they'll give us a firm update on victims, either fatalities or injured or both. And they may not have a concrete answer for that just yet. Sometimes that takes, the hospital. If it's a big issue and there's a lot of people injured, the hospital will even have a news conference to say, we worked on several people and this is how many are injured and whatnot. But I think you're going to just get a good summary of what happened and how the police responded, what agencies are working with them at this hour to figure out what is left to do in the investigation. And then just if there's some representative from the school, which maybe there won't be, but they could give an update on what's happening with FSU moving into the rest of the week, which is important information for your loved one if you're a student there. So I think you're just going to give a good breakdown of the investigation as it is still active. So I think they're going to give a breakdown of what they have left to do and what areas are sensitive. And if you're a student and you live in a certain area, they're going to let you know you can't stay there, or these are the places to avoid. So that's coming up in about 25 minutes, and we'll take that live for you, both here and on WFLA and News Channel 8 at 4. And that helps, because then you can finally get some information that you can go with, and we can stop the other all the news outlets trying to come up with their own sources and trying to figure out what the headline is going to be, and trying to figure out what they can report and what not. As we saw earlier, I mean, it's been differing opinions on what actually happened out there based on sources. So we'll get a firm answer from authorities that everybody will report on, everybody will be on the same page, and hopefully none of those numbers change. We don't want to see any more fatalities, and we don't want to hear about any more if possible.
I'm seeing one report that the press conference might be delayed.
Which is not uncommon.
Right. And
usually they're late to start with, and many times rescheduled.
Right. So we were talking earlier that things are moving a mile a minute for officials behind the scenes, as they're hearing from the hospital, they're hearing from investigators, they're hearing from the FBI. Even with the White House getting briefed on a developing situation like this. So it's very much standard for these press conferences to not start exactly on time.
Right.
I'm trying to get it confirmed that we do have a delay, but as of right now, it is a 4 o'clock. In fact, I'm going to ask Brian. Brian, one report I have is that we might have a press conference delay not starting at 4 o'clock. 4:30. Oh, okay. So that is confirmed. 4:30 Eastern is now the press conference time. So let me adjust that real quick. And get everything ready to go for the 4:30 press conference.
Yeah, not uncommon, because they think, they have everything ready to go, and then a new development happens, or they get some conflicting information. They want to make sure they have all their ducks in a row. So there's absolutely no incorrect information. When they don't have information and they still have a news conference, they'll just say, that's all we can tell you, and we can't tell you anymore. But at least they'll give you something to work with, and so everybody's on the same page. One thing, if you're a family, or if you're parents of students, this came out from that FSU alert earlier today. The student union and surrounding area, that's still considered an active crime scene. University said that in their last report. Individuals should avoid that area. Students should not return to the student union to retrieve personal property. They're going to get that back. So if you're talking to your student, if your student is struggling up there and needs some help and you can't get there, students who need assistance, they're encouraged to go to the Donald L. Tucker Center, assuming you know where that is, and that's where university is providing counseling, healthcare, and other support services. So if you have a student, your son or daughter who's like, I can't deal with this, I can't take that, just have them go there, and they're going to get the help they need right away.
And Brittany, who you saw earlier on this live stream, just wrapped up an interview with Clara Reynolds, who I know from working with her with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. She's the president and the CEO of Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, and Brittany just wrapped up an interview with her. And I'll read a quote from that interview. It reads, "When a shooting such as this happens in our state, it certainly has a huge impact on people right here in the Tampa Bay area, and more of that component of this, because people will react in very different ways to this news today. We'll have that in our newscast tonight on WFLA News Channel 8. But yes, confirming the press conference has been moved to 4:30, likely, as Josh referenced, to just kind of get everything completely solidified so that everybody's on the same page with delivering information. This is now a national story, if not an international one, given that Florida State is such a large, vibrant campus with more than 40,000 students who attend campus, or attend class there on campus. So with a school of this magnitude, regardless if it's a big school or a small school, it's going to make headlines all over the place.
Well, it's a popular university. I mean,
It is.
Everybody knows FSU, and especially us here at home. So,
Yep.
and I'm going to get ready for the 4 o'clock newscast. I see Keith Kate, our main anchor, is standing by. I think he's going to jump in. He should have some great insight. He has family members who've gone to FSU, knows the area well. So he's going to take over, and I will see you on News Channel 8 at 4 o'clock.
All right. We're going to mute
Thanks.
Mike. We're going to mute mics here for just a second as we bring in Keith Kate. Stand by. All right, let's bring in WFLA's Keith Kate, anchor, of course, on News Channel 8. Keith, I'll let you explain your connection to
JB,
FSU. And
well, as you know, it's just been a difficult day, and I think everybody that has a relative, a student, a family member who's anywhere near that campus was concerned today, and the texts were going back and forth, just rapid fire. I was on with my daughter. She is a professor at Florida State University, a very talented young woman who was in class at the time. In fact, we've texted, and as I was sitting down here, you may have seen it in the background, I was picking up my phone because I haven't had a chance to speak with her at all. So for the first time, I just asked her if she'd be willing to go on and speak with me live right now. So Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It's my daughter, Elizabeth Ray from Florida State University.
So we can hear her.
Yeah.
As can you hold it right on top of the mic? Yep,
Yeah,
that's perfect.
So Elizabeth, I know you sent me that text that you were in a lockdown with your students. I mean, shortly after noon. Is there a way to walk me through how that went down in your classroom, what you did, how the students reacted?
Yeah, I teach a public relations strategy course, and we were all sitting in class. I were actually working in small groups, so we're kind of going around, and we got an alarm went off, like a fire alarm of sorts, like wow, wow, we were in lockdown, shelter in place. And at first we were kind of thinking, is this real? Then we start, of course, every phone in the room goes off, alerting us to shelter in place. Now, unfortunately, our door, it faced the outside. It was in a room close to the Westcott Fountain, which is sort of an iconic space at Florida State. So we weren't right on top of the Union, but the alarm went off. We tried to barricade the door. The door wouldn't lock. We have a window that's very visible that we couldn't cover. So all of my students just tried to get in a corner as far away from the window as possible. And, we waited for 3 hours. Now I had students we went through a range of emotions of alarm, of course, at first, but I was very proud of the students who really hung in there today, staying in solidarity, staying quiet, and, just hanging in there as a group. And I appreciated that and their strength and courage today.
Well, I know it was very difficult for you, and I know it's difficult for the university, and the texts were going back and forth between parents and students. As you sat there and you watched this happen, I know there's a delay sometimes in emotions when you have something as shocking as this take place. But as you sat there and you were texting, we couldn't talk by phone. We didn't verbally. This is the first time I've spoken to you. But as we talked by text, you were telling me that everybody was staying in place, everybody was staying calm. But I mean, more than 3 hours you were there and you didn't really know what was happening, and you were relying on information from some of us who were outside picking up that and passing it along to you and your students. Were any of the students in your classroom on their phones with their parents? Were they getting information
Everyone.
from X?
Every student on their phone, students texting me privately, trying to ask, for insight. of course, everyone following X, getting messages from other students on campus and other buildings, being told they're told to clear or not to clear, and how many victims. And of course, we're all aware that videos are circulating. And then, of course, in the background, we're hearing in countless, alarms of police, sirens, ambulances, just countless going by, and every shadow, through the window was terrifying. But of course, all of their parents, even after we just now left, just literally like 10 to 15 minutes ago, and students telling me that their parents were just grateful, that we stayed in the classroom, and so many people talking to different people, and it was difficult to manage that information. But, again, the students were remaining calm, and my boss in direct communication, kind of trying to tell us as much as he could from outside of our classroom as well. Mm-hmm. So yes, a lot of communication from all over. And
the dean, I mean, there were times where you were thinking, well, is it clear? Can we leave? Were you getting instruction from the dean and others in authority at Florida State?
Yes, our dean, and more in the people that I'm in direct report to, in terms of my dean, sent an email, immediately. My director, immediately, he was texting me nonstop throughout the ordeal. I also was, messaging back the dean, and she's, of course, giving reassurance in as much as she could. But we have to rely really on the messages from FSU itself. And so the messages were just to continue sheltering in place. And so the chaos, a little bit later, and again, we were not, and we're very grateful to be in certainly a safer area of campus compared to where it sounds like I still don't even personally know all the details. Like, I'm just walking out, so I can't speak to a lot of that. But
it was at the Student Union Center, and that's not, you were on the other side of campus, but at that time you weren't really clear where the shooter would be.
No.
All you knew it was an active shooter situation.
And we're being told that there's multiple shooters, and students are like, my friend said this, or my friend said that, or my friend's at an apartment and there's another shooting, and a lot of that going on, the rumor.
And just for clarification, just so the people watching at home, you were a reporter for 5 years, so you know how the media works. You also know that hopefully you were in a position to tell your students, hey, this is not uncommon. You get a lot of information. Some of it may be accurate. A lot of it may be misinformation. Were you sharing some of that from your reporting background on how things typically work?
Yes, and also my research is in crisis communication, where I study how to communicate strategically during crisis. And so just kind of using that knowledge as well and sharing with them, listen, we're going to hear a lot of information. Some of it's going to be correct, some of it's not, and that it was so important to wait and to be in solidarity. And they very much were. And I think that they were very receptive to that. I have a lot of fantastic, bright students who, I'm a parent of 3, and that's all that's going through my head is their parents worried about them. And they were amazing and hanging in there. And we were, they're StratCom students, and they understand that how rumors get circulated, and they really hung in there.
Yeah.
Till the end.
I know you're still trying to process this yourself, as we all are who are not there, but I mean, you were directly involved in terms of being in the situation of a lot of unknown. I'm going to let you go. I love you very much. I'm very proud of you, proud of students. Thank you for talking to me, and we'll talk off air a little bit more about this, but thank you, Elizabeth, and hug up those boys for me, would you?
Yes, we'll do. I love you too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, that was unexpected, but I wanted to take the call. I apologize, but she was providing some information. But that was the first, JB, that I'd spoken to her since all of this began. So as a parent, you get worried about your no matter how old your children get, you get worried about them. So
I don't think any apology is necessary, Keith. We appreciate you sharing that moment with us. Again, folks, Keith Kate, of course, of WFLA News Channel 8, joining us now here in the Stream Center. I want to pass along here a new FSU alert just went out a moment ago. The following buildings are currently closed as they are still an active crime scene. I'll read them as follows: Student Union, Bellamy, HCB Classroom Building, Rovetta A and B, Moore Auditorium, Shaw, Pepper, Hecht House, and Caraway. Individuals should not return to these buildings to retrieve personal property at this time. Individuals are free to move about other areas of campus. Individuals who may have witnessed anything of value should call, and we said this number earlier, we'll say it again twice, 850-891-4987. Again, that's 850-891-4987. 87, and that again is the FSU alert that went out a short time ago.
And there's also the latest from the Tallahassee Police Department here concerning what happened here. It says the Florida State University campus has been secured. Multiple law enforcement agencies remain on site for the ongoing investigation. The student union and the surrounding area are still considered an active crime scene. Individuals should not return to the area for any reason. Busing is underway to help students reach the reunification point at the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center. A briefing, as you point out, and we've said it time and time again, is going to be at 4:30. So we're still about 30, 40, 50 minutes away from that, and we'll learn more. And as you've been saying, and we should repeat. I mean, we only know what we know when officials confirm it. You hear a lot of things going back and forth, as you heard my daughter say. The students were getting, there's this or there's that. We just don't know until it's all said and done, and they hold this news conference. We will learn a lot more then.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Keith, you're a pro's pro, so you've already turned on anchor mode. But this I'm sure has been a roller coaster of emotions for you, given Elizabeth being up there, and there's all of those moments where you're just concerned. So what has this day been like for you?
Well, it's just been, you hear these things that happen across the country. Unfortunately, way too often we hear of this and we report on this, but it does hit close to home when you get that call and you say, I'm in my classroom, and all of a sudden you're on a text chain with every member of your family, plus because other people are calling in, because then it makes the news and so forth. And you do get concerned. All you can do is wait. We turn on the television, we watch, the news media. I'm keeping in contact with what's going on here at WFLA on my phone and with contacts here, and sharing information with the text thread with my family, and they're sharing some with me. So I think it wasn't like once I knew where the shooter was, and once I knew that the shooter had been neutralized, I think we all calmed down a little bit. But as you heard in her voice, and I think a lot of people, and I've seen interviews with other students, once something like this ends, that's when you have this moment of, oh gosh, that really happened. And the emotion floods over you that, life is unpredictable. You're going about your day. I mean, here it is Monday, Thursday, you have Easter weekend coming, you're planning a long weekend. This is not on the radar. This is not something you see coming. And I think those emotions come in later for people like my daughter and others who are on campus, that they go home and go, wow, this was really something out of the ordinary. And it's something that will probably be in their conscious and something they'll think about for probably forever in some capacity. I mean, we're hearing fatalities. How many, we don't know. There are injuries. There were people who were traumatized, who were not shot, who were running, who feared for their lives. And that is an emotional scar. That is also some form of injury in all of this, because someone felt it necessary to take out their grievance of whatever it may be in the form of violence and gunshots on a campus filled with students who were innocent victims and had no reason to be involved in whatever this person's, anger issues or whatever it was that led them to this. Obviously, something's not right. We'll find out more as we go along. I don't think this individual has passed. I think this shooter, at last I saw, was maybe still alive, unless that's been updated, but we'll learn more, and hopefully that person will give us some more information. I think it's interesting that after all of these events that occur, whether it's Parkland and elsewhere and going all the way back to Colorado, I think law enforcement always learns a little bit more. I would question my daughter again if I had her on the phone, and if she was another person, I would probably ask her again. It caught my attention when she said something about the door not being able to lock. I'm like, why? Right.
Why not? We were talking about it earlier, how all these decisions and really the circumstances surrounding the aftermath of the shoot, everything's going to be put under the microscope for months, if not years to come.
Mm-hmm. I heard a student saying that, he went off, runners follow runners. When you see fear, there's this mob mentality. I don't know what it is, but they're going that way. I'm getting out of here. Mm-hmm. And the student, I was listening to an interview who ran into another building, and someone who wasn't really aware right then what was going on said, you can't come in here. Like, there's a shooter out there. I'm going to stay right here. And then they kind of hunkered down in place. But this person said, yeah, we have drills. But he said at that moment, all of it went out the window. He just was running for cover. So, I think we have to take these unfortunately, we have to take all of these active shooter type drills and all of this information that we have and is regurgitated after events like this. Somehow we have to process them and make them real in our lives, almost like a second nature. If there is a crisis, Do you have a plan? Do you know where to go? Do you know what the course of action is, aside from just run, which oftentimes is a great response to the fight or flight, but especially on a campus with large groups of people, you got to know, where's my exit point? What's the strategy for staying alive in a crisis?
Yeah, and we were, it's interesting. One of the initial reports, Keith, that came out this morning is that there was a tactical unit exercise with law enforcement that was going on nearby, and there was some initial confusion as to whether or not the surrounding area was properly notified that a tactical unit exercise was taking place, basically training for law enforcement. And was there initial confusion as to whether or not
this was real?
That was a real thing?
Yeah.
And so, one of the initial questions that popped into my mind: by any chance, was the tactical unit in training the first to respond to the active shooter situation? Was it a training exercise that occurred at the same exact time as an actual active shooter threat? I've been covering news for a little bit. I know you've been covering news a little bit longer than I have. I've never heard of an active shooter situation happening relatively close by to a training exercise almost at the same exact time. So that would be
timing.
An interesting
Well, we do know by all accounts that we've had that a lot of law enforcement responded, and responded quickly, whether it was because they were training elsewhere, but you had the FBI on site, and I think a lot of people said, whoa, the FBI, how did they get there so quickly? Is there more to this than just, some shooter with a vengeance? Was it calculated? Was it premeditated? Were there more than one person? So that's where you get all that, stuff going on. But point being, law enforcement did respond quickly, and that's encouraging, whether they were there by happenstance because there was a training mission or not. Law enforcement came from all around.
One of the questions you were talking earlier, asking him regarding Elizabeth and the door being locked. One thing that has already been, a point being made by a lot of folks on social media is the use, what exactly the safe word system is. I don't know if you've been following a little bit of the back and forth on social media. I'll catch you up to speed that there was an alert that went out a little bit earlier regarding them going room to room and using the safe word, which I'm not going to utter here on this live stream, but there was a safe word that was put out in the alert that was being used to help clear rooms and make sure that they could clear rooms safely in a room by room sort of strategy. And the name of the safe word was put out in an FSU alert, leading a lot of people to say on social media, if the active shooter threat, whether it's a shooter or shooters, if it's one or multiple, if they know what the safe word is, doesn't that compromise the system? If the shooter goes to FSU or is a faculty member at FSU and gets the same campus-wide alert that everybody else gets, and the safe word gets put on blast, so to speak, doesn't that compromise the integrity of the safe word system? So I think one of the questions that might come out of this, Keith, is what was the purpose of the safe word? Did people around campus know that was a system in place to keep them safe? And was it accidental or intentional to put out the safe word in the campus-wide alert that went out via FSU alerts? That's become a point of, as we're all waiting for this 4:30 press conference, that's a question that people are repeatedly asking.
At the same time, what's the alternative? I mean, I get what there's. I mean, I could see an argument for and against. I mean, you don't want to get in the mind of a shooter or what they're thinking. Are they that sophisticated? And when they're once they've committed to this process of firing that first shot and maybe repeating that and going, be it methodically, wherever they thought they were going to go, do they have time to sit down and check their phone to see the latest FSU update? I don't know. I think those students in those buildings need a safe word. I don't know how else you would get it to everyone unless you did send it out on some sort of a blast, as you say. But
I guess the system itself is flawed in that, if a student knows the safe word and that student happens to be the shooter, then that there you go. I mean, there's nothing that you can do to prevent just the suspect or suspects in this case from knowing the safe word and everybody else being the ones who exclusively know it. So,
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question because I'm just looking at your stream over here. What am I looking at in the middle of the screen?
all right,
I
so
mean,
this
it's
is a
Tennessee
live.
Street, but
Yeah,
what,
no, thank you. This is a live picture, and let's get back to that. There's a live picture from Macomb Street and Tennessee Street, one of the few live pictures that we've been able to
so
share.
this would be a little south of the campus itself if it's on Tennessee, depending on which. Am I looking north or south?
They've been changing the perspective, and this camera is a PTZ camera, so it does rotate around.
yeah.
So I'm not sure now if we are looking.
That's a busy street, obviously, through there. Normally, it's not right now. It looks like it's blocked off in some areas. But yeah, the street going Macomb, that would be running towards the campus. But yeah, I'm just curious. I saw it up there. I thought, well, is there something happening on that? It's just a traffic camera.
We've been paying attention to. I think it's really a weather camera plus a traffic camera.
Okay.
You know, it's one of those things. We've been paying attention to some of the activity, but the closures right there at Copeland have really. That's remained the same over the course of the entirety of the live stream. In fact, when we first brought up this camera, that perimeter had already been set, and so and also too, that's one of the reasons why. And for our audience, the news camera crews haven't really been able to get anywhere remotely close to the student union because of all the perimeters and road closures that have been put.
Well, now it's
into
a crime
effect.
scene. I mean, they've got that thing blocked off, and even if they wanted to, they're not going to be able to get in there. I see something from another FSU alert that the following buildings are currently closed as they're still an active crime scene. So we'll dovetail off of what you were saying there, and that would be the student union, Bellamy, HCB classroom building, Rovette, A&B, Moore Auditorium, Shaw, Pepper, Hecht House, and Caraway. Individuals should not return to these buildings to retrieve personal property at this time. Individuals are free to move about other areas of the campus, so people are moving about on campus. Individuals who may have witnessed anything of value should call that number. Is that the number you had on the screen earlier, that 850-891? Is that 19?
I have it as 850-891-4987.
Yeah,
correct.
So if you were actually witnessing that, I mean, I have relatives. I have a niece that's also a student at Florida State, but she was not on campus at the time. But there was a video going around of a takedown of someone. I don't know if it's confirmed if that was the shooter or maybe someone else, but there, all of this video is out there, and people are starting to piece it together. So if you're a witness, you need to call authorities, no matter what you saw, because it may be something. Maybe you saw a vehicle that was out of place. Maybe you saw somebody before the shooting happened. All of that's vital for an investigation on how did they get to the student union building? When did they get on campus? Were they even a student? Maybe they were there. I mean, who knows? A lot of information that's going to be gathered, and I look forward to this news conference at 4:30 we've been talking about. So again, at 4:30 we should know a lot more about what's happening.
Yep, it was originally scheduled for 4 o'clock. So if you're joining the live stream now, waiting for that press conference, it has not yet begun. It was pushed back by approximately 30 minutes. So we expect somewhere around 4:30. As Josh Benson noted earlier, it's very common for these press conferences to not start directly on time. It'll just be whenever FSU officials and law enforcement officials make their way up to the podium. That's our understanding. This is a FSU called press conference. I do see the podium shot. It is all with it's not at the local police department. It's not over at the hospital. It's actually at Florida State University. I want to pass this along here, Keith. From our comment section, Blair says, #HeyJB, I'm an FSU PhD candidate in Tallahassee. The safe word is used in active situations to signify that it is safe to open the door for that person. It's for teachers to open the door for police in lockdown. And right, so that I understand, Blair. I'm just curious because if the safe word is for teachers to know, then why did the push alert and text message alert that went out campus-wide and really worldwide, I mean, we knew about it here in the stream, why did it include the safe word? Because, and I want to make sure I understand it correctly, if the safe word is only for teachers to know, if that's what you're saying, then wouldn't it be a system where only the teachers know the safe word? Unless Keith, and I know we're going down the rabbit hole a little bit on this, if the safe word wasn't what they put out in the alert. If there was an alternative safe word, and again, we're a little bit in the down the rabbit hole now, but was there a teacher's safe word and then another safe word? Was that the protocol that was in place for only teachers to know the real safe word? I'm just a little bit lost as to, and others are it's not just me. There are a lot of folks commenting on the FSU Alert Facebook page right now wanting clarification as to whether or not the safe word protocol was followed as they were going room to room and trying to get everybody off campus and out of the way of danger. So I guess we'll find out more as reporters follow up.
Well, I can. That's one of those questions I'll ask my daughter later and find out what, because she is a professor and she was in the classroom, and I'm sure she would have known what the safe word would have been. And I know she was. She did tell me the dean was in contact with staff, so there may be more that's going on than we outside of the university know. I don't know the answers to your question.
Yeah, no, it'll be it'll be interesting. Yeah, I don't know if what Elizabeth had as the safe word is different than the one that was put out in the alert. Which again, I'm not going to say the word. I guess they could now that really the threat has been neutralized. But I mean, if it was here's Megan's comment in our comment section as we're talking about this. The safe word was publicly visible on the FSU website within minutes of the announcement. I was so surprised that I took a screenshot. Yeah, anyway. But yes, we are approximately 25 minutes away now from the 4:30 press conference. Keith, look, it's unfortunate that we have covered a lot of school shootings, but what are some of the pieces of information that you're going to be looking for as you're taking notes ahead of your scheduled newscasts on News Channel 8 tonight? What are some of the things that you're going to be paying really close attention to from officials?
Well, I mean, obviously the shooter, when were they aware that the shooter was on campus? Was it after the first shot? Was it prior? Was there some sort of a warning? Was there something that was going on? Because the police response was quick. Did the shooter make any kind of threats prior? I think that would be an interesting fact. I would be interested in what kind of specific, we've heard maybe what kind of weapons, but confirm what the student was using. Where did this individual get the gun? If I said student, I apologize. Whoever this person was, I'm not saying they're a student. This person who was the shooter, where was the weapon? Where did they get it? How did they get it? How did they get it on campus? Were they in a position where that they were trying to mingle among the students prior to pulling out the weapon? Did they know of something that was happening on campus? Was there any correlation? I got a million questions. Like most people, they're just curiosity questions, which is, any good reporter. What's your curiosity? And that's what leads you down a path to find out if there was something that we could have known, could have prevented it, maybe saved. And it sounds to me like law enforcement did respond quickly enough to where lives were saved. But at this news conference, I want them to confirm some of these numbers that we've heard, how many people really are injured, what are their conditions, if there is a fatality, if there's more than one, or just one. Let's just hope it's as few, one's too many, but as few as possible. Mm-hmm. I think if we are confirming a fatality, just who is this person and how lives were changed, and it's just tragic. Our hearts just break for the families and the friends and those. I think what happens, and you just don't feel as safe. It's going to be in your head for a while when you walk into a crowded room. It's like anything. It's like you're going to be more aware. But authorities can put a fine point on what the facts are as we know them now. The facts may and will change as they learn more. Where was this shooter's family? What brought them here? I don't think there's a good reason. I don't think you could ever find a reason why somebody would do something like this. But it is interesting when you try to dive into what was the thought process on this day, on this campus, at this hour, to do what they did. And I think authorities, that's what you need to get into, and it takes time to get that. But what we will learn is who was the shooter, if they have a name. Is that shooter alive? Have they provided information? Is there fatality? How many injuries? And they will be, who's leading that news conference? Obviously we had the FBI there, we had Tallahassee police there. You've got police from the state patrol was there. You have campus security and police. So there's a lot of, and that probably is why the news conference is delayed, because they have to line up Okay,
Yep.
who's going to say this about you? Don't want a bunch
Yep,
of repetition. So, and then you have to, okay, we take questions. Who's going to get it? EMTs and that sort of thing. I would think that even the governor would probably. I'm not saying he's going to be in this news conference, but I mean, this
he's
goes
right there in
beyond-
Tallahassee. He's right there in Tallahassee.
This goes beyond just one campus. This is a national issue. The president was, I think he had talking about tariffs with Italy or something, and he came out. The first thing he said was, he has been made aware and he's being kept in the loop on what's happening at the university. So this is beyond Tallahassee. This is Florida and national. So everyone's watching this story.
I think to rehash the numbers, we have the first report that came out about the hospitalizations later transformed to 5 seriously injured per NBC News, 1 critically injured, and then the fatality came out afterwards. So one thing that gets a little bit unclear when you're reporting numbers in a situation like this is the fatality one of those who were originally injured, or is it in addition to the number that was originally sent to the hospital with those injuries? So the numbers will certainly become clear, or we hope will become more clear at the 4:30 press conference. But a couple things that you've referenced this now multiple times, Keith. I think one thing that gets lost in a lot of this is that while the headline will be the number of unfortunately, the headline a lot of times is going to focus on the number of fatalities and injured, the suspect, the motivation, so on and so forth. One thing that really does get lost in the weeks, months, even years after a shooting like this is the mental anguish suffered by those who were in close proximity to this event. You noted earlier, if somebody was near the shooting, heard the gunshots ring out, and went running for their lives in a complete and total panic and were quite literally scared for their lives in that moment, that's something that you really won't see really make headlines, but could keep that person up throughout the night for an extended period of time. Maybe it's something they feel for the rest of their lives. We hope not, but it's one of those things where the mental health impact does not receive the same level of attention as the physical injuries or the cause of the shooting, the motivation for the shooting itself. And so
that's why it's important to talk to someone. I mean,
absolutely.
You heard it. I mean, my daughter, who is, as I said, she was a former reporter and now a professor at Florida State University and was involved in it. You heard her talking, but in the middle of it somewhere when she begins to think about and reflects, even on short memory, her student's reaction or her reaction, she got a little choked up, obviously, because it's emotional when it's like a wave that comes over you. They're like, oh, this was traumatic. And like you say, it's something that you have to deal with. And I think you have to express it so that you can let that out a little bit. And there are professionals who can help you with that. I mean, you guys were talking about the crisis center of Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a staff there, and I think you had a phone number you even put up for those folks.
Correct.
813-410-4129, because this emotional trauma that we're talking about is real. Whether you may not have been on campus at all, but maybe you have someone who was there, and you're dealing with that as a parent, a sister, a brother,
absolutely,
any sibling, a grandparent, that like maybe you want to talk to somebody and just express your emotions about it. There's nothing wrong with that. And the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay is there to help in that regard.
Might be a bit of a formality at this point, but I do want to bring this up because it wraps up a previous talking point. When Josh Benson was on with myself, there was contradictory messaging that was going on the FSU Alert website. The header had stated Tallahassee, shelter in place alert, and then underneath it said, threat neutralized. They have updated the header on the website in the last few minutes, and it now says status Tallahassee main campus currently closed. So all of the messaging now, and Keith was talking about it, getting all your ducks in a row ahead of the 4:30 press conference. All the messaging is now falling into line, and clearly we have just more concrete information that is lining up with what has transpired in the last several hours. So again, the status has been the shelter in place has been removed from the top of the website. It reads Tallahassee main campus currently closed. Keith read earlier the list of buildings that are still an active crime scene, and then underneath that it reads law enforcement has neutralized the threat, and then the phone number, of course, they keep putting out in every alert now. Anyone who has witnessed anything of value should call 850 4987. One more time, 850-891-4987. So everything really coming together here ahead of the 4:30 press conference, because there was a lot of and Keith, social media can be used for tremendous good. It can also be littered with misinformation, and during a developing situation like this where there's breaking news and a lot of fear that exists among parents or anyone who has any, including, my goodness, yourself, I'm sure that you had some scary moments today with any moments of uncertainty. A lot of that can spill out onto social media, not even just spill out, but be amplified on social media, where people are just trying to find the truth. And oftentimes their main source of information, which is their cell phones and Facebook and X and Instagram and YouTube. So oftentimes a vast majority of the information you come across there can be the exact opposite of what you're looking for. It can either be misinformation that was unintentionally spread, or it can be a complete and total fabrication meant for clicks. And so it can be dangerous in today's era of trying to be the voice of truth, so to speak, when in reality, so much around you. It's like walking through a minefield and the bombs are just going off because there's so many threads of misinformation. Meanwhile, we're trying to just report fact and keep it factual as much as possible.
Well, that's the one thing you would do at WFLA too, is we wait. And people say, have you heard?
Right.
5 people have been,
Yep.
Hold the phone.
And that's the report we were referencing earlier, because there was.
I know. I was getting that. I'm like, no, we're not going to report that. In part because I had contacts telling me, really good sources giving me information from Florida State, people I know and trust, who were saying, hold off on that. That's not accurate. But some broadcast will throw that out there, and that's dangerous, I think, because it puts more fear. As you heard, my daughter was saying in her class, the students were getting that information. There's multiple shooters. Well, they got one, but the other one's still. My goodness, I know you want to alert everybody, but screaming fire in the crowded theater is not the way to do it. And I get that on social media, and I get that X, or Twitter, whatever you want to call previous, now X, people are sharing information, and information is power, and it, at least it gets it out there. But as a news organization like WFLA and other responsible outlets, we can't report that. That's why we're waiting with bated breath on the 4:30 news conference, where somebody can come out and go another, and they all get together. The FBI talks to the local authorities, who talks to the others who were there, and we can confirm what we have. Hospital representatives, we're all together. Now we can give you the facts as we know them. It sounds like to me, and again, to be determined, that this was not as deadly as first reported. And that, to me, is terrific news. And I look forward to sharing that. Again, as I've said, one life is one too many. One injury is one too many. But at least, hopefully, it will not be anywhere near what we thought was in those early moments taking place on that campus.
And just a little bit of, going back to that report where there was so much fear because people that were legitimately scared because of that, that report that was circulating around. It's interesting. I have such tremendous respect and admiration for Keith and of course being really our voice on WFLA News Channel 8 with our entire anchor team. It's interesting because when we're doing this on live stream and you have people that are relentlessly commenting, look at this report, my goodness, have you seen what this station in Orlando is reporting? We're at a stage now where, look, it's very difficult to make the determination whether or not to address it, because addressing it on our live stream brings attention to it, but also at the same time, we can address it. We do our very best to address it in a way where we are explaining a little bit of our process, explaining a little bit of our methodology, explaining how we do things at WFLA. And, I had called it an outlier report at the time, Keith, because it was so vastly different than all the other reports out there. But my goodness, that was what brought attention to it. And so we kind of had to address it in that moment. And I just want to say, I'm grateful that fatality count didn't prove to be true. We, as Keith noted, we want as the lowest fatality count possible, the lowest injury count possible. So I'll just start by saying, or end by saying rather, I'm very, very grateful that that report proved to be erroneous, and we are here talking about a situation where it's not that many people impacted right now.
As far as we know. Again,
as far as we know. Correct.
And just for those who are watching and you go, well, how did information get out like that? Before we throw too many stones at anyone who's reporting anything, as a reporter in the field, because I can tell you how this kind of stuff happens, and it's not to inflame anyone. The reporter's not looking to throw disinformation. Wherever these reports get started, they are in hopefully in good conscience getting information, and it could be that they got that information from an authority. They're like, I just talked to the police officer. But the problem is that one police officer does not speak for everyone. And the police officer or the ENT, whoever that's on site, the emergency responder, whoever, they may have provided information like, oh man, I think we got this. Well, if you run off and report that, it should be couched with that. I don't say you don't report it because, these are people in a position to know.
Sure.
But you can say as a reporter, and I can see how these things get out of hand, is that I was like, listen, I spoke with someone who was on the scene. He's telling me this is what he thinks. Can't confirm it, but that's what this person who says he was there, an eyewitness, said he experienced. I'm just hypothetically thinking that's how misinformation from a legitimate news organization can get out there. You just have to be careful and put that attribution out there. You don't state facts until you know the facts are confirmed. And unfortunately, and it's not the first time we've seen this. You'll see it in natural disasters, like even our hurricanes.
Sure.
Oh, we got this many. Oh, we got this many. And then later you find, well, it wasn't really this many. It was that many. So, the rush to be first sometimes can spook you. But, we're going down to the weeds on that. Again, we're going to know so much more at 4:30, and it's kind of an effort to trying to get you as much information and just hang out with you a little bit until we get that information.
Correct. So we're setting the stage now. We're now 10 minutes away from the scheduled start time of that press conference, and as soon as I get the green light from the newsroom, I'll switch over to the podium live shot here. The Associated Press is reporting the following, that police officials will be the one speaking at the press conference, and also as well that the president of Florida State University, Richard McCullough, may also be speaking at this press conference. No other details yet as to who will be attending. Tallahassee, for those joining us on the live stream for outside of Florida, unfamiliar, Tallahassee being the capital here in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, I'm not sure. Have you looked? I haven't seen his schedule today as to whether or not he's in Tally or if he's elsewhere, Keith, but whether or not he appears or any other politicians in Tallahassee, if they decide to speak at this press conference.
I'm not saying that I would expect him to be there, but I would expect him to you're going to hear probably a reference that we've spoken to the governor, and the governor's aware and providing all of the help necessary that you normally hear. What you don't want to hear is maybe what comes in days later where things turn political, or as they often do, that, oh, well, this is why we need to do this and this is why we need to do that, and someone taking a shot at this person who's taking a shot at that person. That's unfortunate, but I'm not going to say I've seen some of it, but I've seen references to it by some political folks who have already jumped in there. But I don't think the governor would necessarily be there. I mean, we've seen some videos. I was looking on X just to see if there was anything new that I've seen. You at home probably are doing the same thing. You go on these sites and you've seen some video by students who have showing that, here we are running down the hallway or whatever. We're not airing those necessarily until we get those approved and confirmed. Sometimes we were talking about misinformation. It's not uncommon that someone throws some video out and you realize, well, that has nothing to do with Florida State at all. This was something that happened years ago. So you have to couch everything you see with a grain of salt until you can confirm it and make sure you got the right information.
Yeah.
But our news alerts continue to come in. I'll get off of that. I'm kind of scrolling through my notes here as they come in.
Let's also it's small observation. But while we wait for the podium shot to be officially available to us, and we
can't even take a shot of it to see you.
yeah, not until oh no, wait, actually look at the moment Keith Kate
Yeah.
started talking, I got the green light.
Okay,
Look at
let's
that.
take a look and see what, at least, I'm sure they're putting the microphones up and.
That is exactly right. Here it
Everybody in
is.
place.
Let's take you live now to the podium shot. There it
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
So this is, and I can give everybody the location, even though I'm sure many people won't know exactly where this is, but this is going to be, this is the Turnbull Conference Center at Florida State University.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
You
again,
can see a lot of microphones already up there, and I'm sure the reporters will be coming in here shortly. And I'm not sure who all's allowed to attend this this news conference, but it will be watched heavily by so many people. You have up on your screen 1 dead, multiple injuries in FSU shooting. Now that's the latest that we have confirmed, correct?
That right, and the multiple is as a result of the fatality being confirmed after the injury. So the injury count is unclear because we have at least. Let's take the latest here from the Associated Press. At least 6 people have been hospitalized, with 1 in critical condition. And then afterwards, it was reported, and that I don't think this figure has changed, but 1 dead as a result of the FSU situation today. More and more people now filtering into the room. What I'm going to do is I'm going to very gently bring up the audio. The audio levels are coming in pretty loud so far, so let's just kind of gently bring up these audio levels. Stand by.
Looks like we're seeing some suits, and we're seeing some law enforcement coming in as well. And so this looks like a kind of preview of things to come. Everybody getting in their place. Maybe staff members who were in a room being briefed now coming in. Did you say the university president was going to be speaking as well?
That's the expectation, but based on who the AP spoke with, which is William Wellock. He's a research and media content specialist with the university. William telling the Associated Press that police officials will be speaking at this presser, and that we might also hear, yes, from FSU President Richard McCullough. So again, we are now transitioning into the press conference section of the live stream. For those of you just joining us, Keith Kate of WFLA News Channel 8, JB here with you in the Stream Center. More and more officials filing into the room. And again, this is, if you're just tuning in, what is going to be the 4:30 press conference from Florida State University on with an update on the shooting that occurred a little bit, I would say around noon today, the alert going out shortly after noon. And we expect an update on where things stand with the investigation, and we're hoping for an update on the condition of those in the hospital. That was Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. The latest that we had heard number-wise come from the hospital itself was 5 seriously injured and 1 critically injured.
What is net 15?
Stand by, folks.
My name is Jason Trumbower, and I'm the Chief of Police at Florida State University. All Florida State University classes and business operations on the main campus in Tallahassee are canceled through Friday, April 18th. Essential employees should check with their supervisors for further reporting instructions. All FSU athletic events in Tallahassee are canceled through Sunday. At approximately 11:50 a.m. Thursday, April 17th, a gunman opened fire on the main campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee, shooting multiple individuals in the vicinity of the Student Union building. FSU police responded immediately, engaged, neutralized, and apprehended the shooter. 2 victims of deceased are deceased, and 5 individuals have been transported to a local hospital with gunshot wounds. The shooter has also been transported to a local hospital. The 2 deceased are not students. The shooter is believed to be a current FSU student. I do not have additional information on the shooter's identity at this time. Students who need assistance can go to the Donald L. Tucker Center, where the university is providing counseling, health care, and other support services. Family members are also able to go to the Tucker Center for assistance. Students, faculty, and staff are asked to call their loved ones as soon as possible to update them on their status. The student union and the surrounding area is still considered an active crime scene. Individuals should avoid the area. Students should not return to the student union to retrieve personal property at this time. Students may return to their residence halls, but they should otherwise stay indoors on main campus to allow first responders and university staff to do their jobs and respond to those needing assistance. Students may depart campus for the weekend. All classes have been canceled through Friday. Before I turn this over to Chief Revel, I want to thank all the brave men and women of the FSU PD for responding immediately to the scene. I also want to thank the responding agencies who have provided assistance to FSU today big time, including the Tallahassee Police Department, the Leon County Sheriff's Office, the Florida Highway Patrol, Leon County Emergency Medical Services, FDLE, and all other responding agencies today. We really appreciate your support. That's all the information I have at this time. We'll have additional update for you later today. Chief Revel.
Good afternoon. I am Chief Revel with the Tallahassee Police Department. As the shooting occurred today, our officers, as well as every single other officer in this city and county, responded immediately to this scene. Once on scene and once we began working through what was occurring and what we were working, in consultation with FSU, Tallahassee Police Department was asked to take lead on this. So we will be the lead for this investigation in both the officer involved shooting portion of this as well as the homicide portion of this. I will come up after the last speaker and entertain just a few questions, but needless to say, we have multiple crime scenes. This is a very large area we're covering. We have thousands, hundreds of thousands, or hundreds or thousands of witnesses. And again, this is an active, ongoing investigation. So the information that we will be allowed to release right now may be fairly limited. I'll answer what I can at that time. But I will assure you that as soon as we can, any information that becomes available, we will make that available to you. One of the things in the process, and again, understand that this is an ongoing active investigation. So things are happening as we are standing here and as we are speaking. We have identified the shooter, obviously. He's at the hospital. So with more on that, I'm going to allow the sheriff to come up and speak on that portion of it.
Thank you, Chief. As Chief Revel indicated, I'm Walt McNeil, Leon County Sheriff. First and foremost, let me express our gratitude to the responding law enforcement agencies in this community. Our citizens should feel some degree of comfort knowing that your law enforcement agencies are going to respond and do exactly what we did in this case, that is bring the offender to justice and to make sure that we do what we can to make sure we lock him or her up. Let me say to you, This is obviously a heinous crime. Our deepest condolences go out to the FSU family, the families of the students who are here, and we understand that you all have been devastated because of this person's actions. The question as it relates to who is the shooter is 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, and he's the son of a Leon County Sheriff deputy. Our Deputy Eichner, has been with the Leon County Sheriff's Office for over 18 years. She has a tremendous job that she's done. Her service to this community has been exceptional. Unfortunately, her son had access to one of her weapons, and that was one of the weapons that was found at the scene. And we are continuing that investigation into how that weapon was used and what other weapons perhaps he may have had access to. The alleged shooter was also a long-standing member of the Leon County Sheriff's Office Citizen Advisory or Youth Advisory Council. So he has been steeped in the Leon County Sheriff's Office family, engaged in a number of training programs that we have. So it's not a surprise to us that he had access to weapons. This event is tragic in more ways than you people in the audience could ever fathom from a law enforcement perspective. But I will tell you this, we will make sure that we do everything we can to prosecute and make sure that we send a message to folks that this will never be tolerated here in Leon County, and I dare say across this state and across this nation. Thank you. Let me bring up the FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge, Hubert Reynolds.
Good afternoon. My name is Hubert Reynolds, and I'm the Acting Special Agent in charge of the Jacksonville Field Office. I want to echo those standing with me what a horrific crime this is, and we stand with you fully. We have an office here in Tallahassee, and we are fully engaged with providing any resources that we can bring to bear to help with this investigation moving forward. We've established a digital tips media line where you can upload photos, videos prior to and during the incident. If you were there from social media, please upload all of that. I will give you now the website address. You can upload any tips to www.fbi.gov/FSU shooting. Again, that's www.fbi.gov/FSU shooting. I want to assure you that we are going to bring every available resource to be able to help the community and the local people here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Richard McCullough, Rick McCullough, the president of Florida State University. This is a tragic day for Florida State University. We're absolutely heartbroken by the violence that occurred on our campus earlier today. 2 have died. 5 other innocents are being treated for their injuries. We're working to support the victims, their families, and everyone affected by this traumatic event. I just returned from the hospital where the First Lady and I met some of our students who were the victims. Our hearts go out to our students and the victims of this terrible tragedy. I have to say that our law enforcement, our FSU police officers, are absolute heroes in this regard. The call went out, someone called it in, and immediately they responded to the scene and immediately neutralized the suspect and prevented this from being a bigger tragedy. I want to thank them so much for what they do to try to keep our students safe. I want to thank all the law enforcement partners, FSU Police, Tallahassee Police, Leon County Sheriff's Department, Florida Highway Patrol, and the Florida Department Law Enforcement, and all other responding agencies for their rapid and courageous response. I want to thank everybody that came out to visit with the students and to help us and to be here today for this press conference. And I appreciate so much the support that you're all providing to our university and to our students. We're fully cooperating with the investigation, and we defer to law enforcement as they continue their work. I'd also like to thank all the healthcare providers at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. They're treating and providing outstanding care to our victims. Right now, our top priority is safety and well-being for all the people and our campus. As it was said, classes are canceled. On the main campus today and tomorrow, and all FSU athletics events on Tallahassee are canceled through Sunday. We also want to tell you that counseling and psychological services are available to students, faculty, and staff, and anyone that needs that should call 850-644-2003. We're also providing support for faculty and staff through our Employee Assistance Program. And so if you need any help, please reach out. We'll continue to communicate with the campus community as we know more. This is a deeply emotional time, but we're all here to support each other. We're going to do everything we can to support our community. We're a strong and united community, and we're family. And so we'll take care of all of you. And we'll get through this together. Thank you.
All right, at this time we will take a few questions. Let me just reiterate, this was a massive response, a massive response of law enforcement personnel. Our federal, state, local partners have continued to build relationships that long preceded this event, and that came into great play today in the seamless way that we all came together to work these events. But I know you'll have some specific questions. I will tell you right now, we are not going to talk about the victims, other than the fact that there are 6 of them, two additional deceased, and then the suspect. So 9 total persons. 9 total persons. Yes, sir.
Have you all been able to talk to the suspect at all? Any idea about motive?
The suspect invoked his rights not to speak to us.
Chief, do we know if the weapon that was used was his parents' service weapon? And if so, what are the rules around storing service weapons in the house?
No, that's a good question. This weapon was a weapon that the deputy previously used. A lot of times, many agencies, mine included, when we transition to a new handgun, the officers are allowed to purchase the handgun they used prior. And correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, but I believe that's the case here. This was a handgun that deputy used prior to them transitioning to a new handgun, and so it was her personal handgun.
Is she been put on leave or suspended?
The sheriff would have to speak to that.
We will do a thorough investigation to look at all aspects of it. There's no cause right now that we're aware of that would require her to be placed on any kind of suspension or otherwise.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been hearing stuff that it was a deputy who was a school resource officer. Is that true?
That is correct.
Chief, those injured, those killed, are any of those members of law enforcement?
I'm sorry?
Anyone who died in the shooting or was injured in the shooting, were any of them members of law enforcement, whether it be the...
No, they were not.
Sheriff's office? Okay.
They were not. Yes, sir.
When law enforcement arrived, did the suspect engage with them, or did he surrender immediately? Or can you speak to that?
No, they challenged him and ended up shooting. He did not comply with commands and was shot.
Did he fire officers?
I do not believe he fired at officers.
We've heard that Phoenix may be autistic. Are you able to confirm that detail?
I do not have that detail.
Is there an ID of the victims yet?
I'm sorry?
An ID of the victims?
We're not releasing any of the victim information at this time.
Was the officer aware of any behavioral conditions or concerns or threats prior to this incident?
We were not.
How quickly did officers arrive on scene from the 911 call to when they engaged the suspect?
We will get you that information. I don't have that currently. I assume that would be a question that was asked, but I mean, it was almost immediately. that FSU, obviously this is their campus, and they patrol it very well. So they were on scene almost immediately, engaged almost immediately. And then everyone else, again, was a massive, very quick response. So.
You said that the 2 deceased were not students. Do we know of those 5 that were injured, or any of them students?
Again, we're not releasing any information on the students on the victims at this point.
Specifically, what firearms did he use?
I'm sorry?
What kind of firearm was he using?
It was a handgun.
What kind of handgun?
I don't know what type of handgun that was. It was probably a 40. I don't know. Yeah.
Chief, I heard reported that a shotgun was also recovered on campus. Was that used in the shooting?
We do know that he had a shotgun with him. We have not confirmed anyone was shot with a shotgun at this point. But again, that could change as we, again, there are hundreds and hundreds of witnesses, and as we piece all of this back together, information will come to light that we may not have at this point. So I do not believe so at this point.
We'll take one more question. Will body cam footage, radio dispatch, or any logs be released in the near future?
I'm sorry, say again.
Will there be any body cam footage or radio dispatch logs or incident reports being released in council?
We will work with the state attorney's office, which we always do, in pulling together all the information, all the investigative evidence from this case, and in collaboration with State Attorney Campbell, we will make that determination. Obviously, after the case is over, we will certainly, it all becomes available at that point. But as to what we can and will release at that point, like I said before, we're very open, transparent on these things. Again, the officers did an incredible job. But again, some of this is very horrific. This is a horrific incident. And so we will, again, collaborate with the state attorney's office and determine which of that evidence could be released or will not be released. But again, I will let you know that as soon as we make that determination. So thank you all very much. Appreciate you being here. And just let me reiterate what's already been said. The collaboration between all of the agencies, the federal, the state, the local, all of our first responders, our EMS personnel, our fire department, again, just a massive response, immediate treatment to the victims that were there, the transport of them. Again, it was a very seamless response to this tragedy. And that goes to the training that we all do repeatedly, individually as agencies and together. The incident command came together very, very quickly. And again, I could not be more proud of the response and more horrified at the act. So thank you very much.
Can you please just real quick verify that one more time the number of people injured and dead? Our number was 8. I heard you say 9.
Sure. Total number of 9. That includes the suspect. So there are 6 victims that are injured, 2 victims that are dead, and 1 suspect. And that's let me just reiterate this because I'm not sure we said this. We have no reason to believe at this point that he did not act alone. So there is no further threat to our community at this point. So thank you very much.
They're 10 minutes to break down, again, the FSU shooting that we've been following since shortly after noon Eastern today. 2 now confirmed to be dead, and you heard there the updated count. There was some initial confusion as to the total number of injured. 6 injured, not including the suspect who is injured as well. The suspect, the son of a Leon County sheriff's deputy who had access to a personal firearm, a personal handgun that is believed to have been used in the shooting. It was a service weapon that was found at the scene of where this all happened at the Student Union, near the Student Union at Florida State University. So 2 people total have been killed, 6 injured, and then the 7 if you include the suspect. The question that was really important there as well, and grateful to the reporter who asked it. The deputy, the Leon County deputy, a question here. The parent is also a school resource officer, as it was stated by officials, and the suspect was shot, but it's unclear at this time. It sounds as if he did not fire back at officials. A shotgun was mentioned as well, but they do not know if a shotgun was actually used in the shooting itself. And a lot of videos are circulating on social media. And so the suspect is a 20-year-old son of a current sheriff's deputy who had access to one of her weapons. And that according to Leon County Sheriff Walt McNeil. McNeil saying it was not a surprise that the suspect had access to the weapons because he was a member of the Sheriff's Office Citizen Advisory or Youth Advisory Council. Officials saying that the suspect's mother purchased one of the firearms, one of her former service weapons, and it was her personal property at the time of the shooting. I think it's fair to say that this is more information than you usually get in the initial press conference in the aftermath of a school shooting. Clearly, a full investigation is going to go into the details, but for them to be giving this much information up front speaks to, of course, how certain they are of the situation and how those particular facts are exactly that, facts at this state in their investigation. So sending prayers, of course, that the 6 injuries as a result of this, those innocent individuals who were just on campus for whatever reason, whether it be for work or whether it be to attend class, we hope that they make a full and speedy recovery. The shooter, I should also point out, was engaged in a number of training programs that were offered by that program. Again, that program being, and I want to make sure that I have the name right, the Sheriff's Office Citizen Advisory Council, or the Youth Advisory Council, I believe was the name, if I'm not mistaken. My goodness. So a lot of information. Let's break down. Let's get back to Facebook, your Facebook comments, as well as YouTube Live as well. Let's bring in those comments here too. And we're going to spend the next 5 minutes just focusing in on your comments before we wrap up our coverage at the top of the hour at 5 Eastern. So in the comment section now, you can use #KJB. It'll be easier for me to read on your screen. It's just more of a vehicle for me to see your comments clearly. Yeah, Tyler wants to know, now we need to see if he has that orange Hummer. That was a witness account, someone who spoke to NBC News saying that it was an individual in an orange shirt coming out of an orange Hummer, which we thought was a bit peculiar, given that orange is such a color you don't really see too many orange cars or vehicles on the roadway. And so let's get back to YouTube Live here as well. Meowsers on YouTube Live says, #HeyJB, why would an officer not lock up the other gun at home? How the shooter was able to gain access to this weapon, considering that the shooter was, it sounds as if, raised in a home with at least one law enforcement parent, that being, it seems as if the shooter's mother, who again, a Leon County Sheriff's deputy. Yeah, how the firearm was accessible is going to be, of course, a key question and a main focus in the investigation itself. Tara, I see your I see your comment. I will have to verify that. But if Tara, if your comment on YouTube Live is true, yeah, that's particularly interesting. I can't say it because I don't have the time right now to verify it, unless you want to like tweet a link at me with that verifies that information. But if that's true, that is of course of note. Yeah. My God. April says, "Hey JB, I grew up with guns, but they were all either locked in a cabinet or in a safe that we had no access to." I think if you speak to responsible firearm owners, they will tell you that one of the most responsible things that you can do as the owner of a firearm is to secure your weapon at all times. All times. Not when you're just carrying, but when it's, at your home or wherever you store your firearm. With how prevalent it is for people to have firearms, especially here in the state of Florida, it's like it's almost like firearm training 101. Secure your weapon, secure your firearm, whether it's on you or otherwise. Can't carry around your gun all the time. So wherever it is being stored, it has to be properly stored so that only you or whomever should have access to it. That's it. But there's also the shooter's alleged history with this youth advisory council that calls into question the access to the firearm. And Jahan, hashtag HeyJB, was it just one shooter? Has the multiple shooters theory been confirmed false? By all indications in that press conference, it was a singular shooter. And that there's no additional threat right now on campus. Ashley, with a really pertinent question on YouTube Live. When do you think they will release information about the victims? I can assure you that it will be upon next of kin notification. I have friends in law enforcement. I've known a lot of really amazing people in my reporting career through law enforcement, working with sheriff's offices and state agencies and local police departments going back many, many years. Tremendous men and women who work in law enforcement. And one of the things that you will hear is that, my goodness, one of the hardest things to do in law enforcement is to break that next of kin notification, to break that news to somebody else, like to quite literally bring their nightmare to life, that their loved one, whether it's a son or daughter, a husband or wife, a mother or father, a grandfather or grandmother, whomever it may be, when you're making that next of kin notification, you're informing them that a loved one is deceased. It's of course extraordinarily painful, beyond words painful for those learning of the next of kin notification, but it's also painful for the officers that have to deliver that news. So right now, it would appear that that's an ongoing. You would imagine that that's an ongoing process as the dead or the two that are dead are identified. That next of kin notification goes out, and then at that point, we find out more about the victims, and we hope that the fatality count remains at 2. We said that we hoped that it remained at 1 an hour ago, and now we're hoping that it remains at 2. We want we don't want any more loss of life. I'm not going to get, there are some questions here about gun ownership and about policies in place and about how different states have different laws when it comes to the ownership of law enforcement. We're not going to get into that. There is no doubt, there's a political conversation that transpires in the aftermath of a school shooting. I don't believe it's appropriate for that conversation, especially with this mic in front of me right now. There will be tremendous political discourse taking shape already, and probably already has taken shape on social media as people, pun not intended, fire left and right, their opinions on gun laws, and not going to delve into that today. We're focused on the tremendous pain that is being experienced right now at Florida State University. the facts of what has transpired and how we can best communicate information to the masses. Checking in on Facebook Live. Any final comments here before we wrap up the live stream? Jessica on Facebook Live just wants to know, is the mother going to get in trouble? Look, I believe that question can be answered with a simple fact. We are a country of laws. If and it's a particularly oh my goodness, complicated situation when you have someone who is sworn to uphold the law now being at the center of a shooting that has caused tremendous pain for so many people. So you have this deputy that has been sworn to uphold the law, a child who has broken the law in one of the most evil ways you can break the law, which is to take the life of others in mass fashion like this, recklessly, and just to open fire on a school campus like this. So you have clearly this is not an officer, excuse me, a deputy who has a son that has violated the law in the most heinous of fashions. But now the question also, yes, to Jessica's point, was there a crime committed? Was the law followed by the office? Once again, by the deputy whose firearm was taken for this evil act? That will, of course, be part of an investigation that will take shape in the days ahead. The investigation will look into what laws were broken, who was responsible for breaking those laws, and then gathering evidence to support whether or not the law was broken, the charges that are put forth. And then if upon conviction, sentencing in the name of justice. That's how our law and order system works here in this country. I've said I've been on live stream for too many school shootings, unfortunately, and I always say this at the end, but it's like one of those things, man. I always say I really hope that we learn from this, and it's true. I really hope that we learn from every school shooting. I mean, when we were on live stream for hours and hours with Uvalde, with Texas, we talked about it because with that particular shooting, the law enforcement response, even that day, was called into question. And then once the video came out of them in this holding pattern, oh my goodness, the vitriol was palpable. And so, we always said, we have to learn from this. Every time we have to learn from this. But you would hope that all these lessons learned, when you add them all up, when you put all the breadcrumbs together, that we as a country can take all the lessons learned, and hopefully the proof will come out in the many months and years to follow that we have less school shootings because we have learned our lesson previously. That we get better as a civilization, that we get better as a society, that we get better as a country. We certainly hope that this is another opportunity to pick up lessons and learn from lessons, and everything from even just how the response was. Now, clearly, law enforcement officials are extremely proud of the heroes that right now do not have names, that neutralize the threat, and that perhaps lessons from previous school shootings led us to the moment today that minimized loss of life. We'll never truly know unless there's a thorough and comprehensive investigation and more of a spotlight shined on the heroes that deserve tremendous credit today for minimizing the loss of life. But we won't know until the response from law enforcement is properly evaluated, analyzed, and whether or not anything better could have been done. There's every school shooting, every mass shooting is followed up by a tremendous amount of investigation, reflection, and understanding. And so this one is going to be no different. There will be lessons learned, and we just hope that when you put it all together, that as we all get older, and daughters become mothers, mothers become grandmothers, that we all get older, that we have fewer and fewer school shootings and mass shootings because of the lessons learned previously. If we don't learn our lessons and we don't try to improve and get better and do things, whether it be mental health help, whether it be laws, whether it be response training and tactics. It's interesting. Even technology. We were on a newscast, the 11 o'clock newscast this week, and we saw drones flying through school hallways in Texas, a drone active school shooter mitigation program. Can you imagine? So the idea is that instead of using drones to our advantage to fly through school hallways to neutralize an active school shooter threat. Clearly we're trying to get better as a society to prevent loss of life from school shootings and mass shootings in general, but you would just hope that the results follow. And the results are fewer shootings, fewer next of kin notifications, fewer bodies on the ground, fewer life transforming injuries, just fewer nightmares coming to life. You just hope that we get to that point. Anyone who looks at a school shooting today and says, no problem with that, well, there's a problem with you. And everyone's going to look, that's where the politics come into play, because then, and that's what we're not going to dive into today, everyone's going to have their own opinion as to what's to blame for school shootings here in the United States, where they're much more prevalent and much more common than any other country in the world. Everyone's going to have an opinion as to what to blame. Is it mental health? Is it gun policy? Is it one thing or another? Everyone's going to have their own opinion, and that's your right as an American to have an opinion. But I think if there's one thing we can all agree on collectively, is that we got to get better. We got to figure out solutions rather than just pointing fingers about the problems. So, yeah. So that's just a little bit at the end of a what? How many hours have I been live? I haven't. It's been we've been live for I think 5 hours. I haven't eaten. I haven't left this seat in 5 hours. You would imagine that I have some basic things that every human being has to take care of. But I just wanted to share that, we in the news, while we are depended upon to report facts, and we really did our best today to really stay true to our journalistic goal of reporting facts. I think it's just important to point out that we too, especially being a reporter and now a father in Florida, we have feelings too, and when it comes to the part of the job when it comes to reporting facts, of course that's the primary part of our job. But every now and again, it just feels appropriate to remind people that we are human, as reporters and journalists, we are human beings too. And we see what is happening, and we want just to get better. We want all of us to be better. We want to see us evolve past the challenges that have plagued and caused nightmares for so many. We just hope. I'm not going to be the guy, I'm not going to be a commentator and sit here and say, this is to blame. This is why shootings happen. I'm not going to, there's enough political theater happening in comment sections all over the internet. You don't need me tossing in an opinion in any way, shape, or form regarding the politics or why we have a problem in our country or why we have to tackle it with plan A, B, C, or D. But someone has to just sit here, look into the camera with a mic in their face and the lights on and say plainly, we're sick of this. Sick of school shootings. And enough heartbreak for a millennium has been caused as a result of it. So just it's a big overall, we're fed up, and we hope that whatever the solution may be, and maybe there is no perfect magic buttoned up solution that will solve and cure all of our ailments with mass shootings in general. But I just hope that collectively, from all corners of the political spectrum, from all corners of our country, there can be this unified, agreed principle that we just are fed up with it, and something should be done to correct the fact that we continuously see people die inside places where we're supposed to learn, or even places where we're not supposed to learn. Mass shootings occur in schools and elsewhere, and we're just hoping that we do not see any more of it. Wouldn't it be great one day if 5-10 years from now we think to ourselves, my goodness, school shootings, they don't happen like they used to. There's something changed in our country. Something we evolved. And for whatever reason, and maybe we don't have to understand it, we just hope that whatever the solution was, it worked. Like planting a seed and watching the tree grow, it just blossomed. This strategy that was put into place worked, and we don't have any more shootings. That would be, can we strive for that future collectively rather than with all the finger pointing? I hope so. As someone who believes in unity and believes in talking about solutions rather than screaming about the problems, I hope that we can get to that point someday. Guys, everybody, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us on the live stream. And let me just please pass along heartfelt condolences to those who are living in their nightmare today. There are some scared people out there right now waiting for updates out of the hospital with the 6 who were injured. And I can't even imagine the fear that has grown inside of them as to whether or not that loved one is going to be okay or not. We already have, again, 2 people who have died, and we have 6 people injured, and the pain, I don't know if there's words to describe it for anyone who's been through something so horrific. So we will just pass along our most sincere thoughts and prayers from the WFLA family, and hope and hope that there is no additional loss of life from this point forward. For everybody joining us, WFLA.com will be a spot for you to get updated information. I really appreciate the one question asking about when we'll learn more about the victims, the deceased. So often in the aftermath of a school shooting, the most Googled search will be the name of the shooter, and no one, or it feels like no one in comparison in relative numbers, thinks to Google the names and honor the names of those who were shot and killed as a result. As soon as we find out more about those tragically lost today, we'll make sure that it's on full display on WFLA.com. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. Our coverage continues on WFLA.com with our articles that will be updated throughout the evening and into the nighttime hours. We'll see you next time on WFLA Now here from the Stream Center. Farewell.